Meeting called to order at 7 p.m. on November 6, 2019. Just a notice to the student body, all students are members and participants in student government, and as such are encouraged to take part in discussion of Senate bills and orders or issues affecting students. Please wait to be recognized by the chair and be courteous to others wishing to speak. We'll go ahead and move into roll call. Advet. Olacard. Bender. Blair. Khan. Crab. Colbitson. Dollinger. Fritz. Green. Gonzalez. Hanyang. Heasley. Johnson. Class. Klein. Klein. Lipford. Ludwig. Mass. Meredith. Mitchell. Origer. Rice. Rinchi. Rolling. Samanu. Schrader. Searles. Stanley. Samuel. Tonette. Zastro. We'll go ahead and move into Pledge of Allegiance led by Speaker Colbitson. Moving on to programs. The first program we have is Alyssa Doherty, from the president of SHOP. If you want to approach the lectern and take it away.
Well, thank you, Vish, and I'm excited to be here with you all. My name is Alyssa Doherty, and I serve as president of the SHOP, or the Students Helping Our Peers Food Pantry. I work with an executive team of 8 others, and we have 75 active volunteers. So food insecurity is a growing problem on many college campuses, including here at Iowa State University. A 2018 National College Campus Survey found that 1 in every 3 college students is food insecure or housing insecure. We believe that academic and career success should not be jeopardized by one's ability to access food. Therefore, our mission is to serve the student population and Ames community by increasing hunger awareness and food insecurity. Through our activities, we hope to alleviate food insecurity while collaborating with the Iowa State University and with the Iowa State University community. To give you a little history of the SHOP, we were created by the FSHN transfer learning community in January of 2011. There was 1 location, and it was open for 3 hours with 6 to 10 visitors each week. Today, we have 3 different locations: the Food Science Building, 1 in Freddie Court, and 1 in SUV. At our Food Science Building alone, we are open for more than 41 hours per week, and we have over 30 visitors or users per week. And our other 2 locations, we are not currently tracking, but we have many more there as well. So as I mentioned, we have 3 different locations. The one in the Food Science Hallway opened in 2011. Our next one opened in Freddie Court in 2014. And our last one in SUV opened in 2018. Just this year alone, or just this semester alone, we've stocked our pantries with over 1,200 pounds of food. So our executive team has 4 main goals that we strive for: increasing exposure on campus, engaging more volunteers, collaborating across the community, and strengthening our SHOP administration. We use social media posts, our Sally the Soup mascot, and inserting our SHOP plug into the campus tours to increase our exposure on campus. That way, all students know that our services are available and open for everyone. Our second goal is to engage with volunteers, so we attend campus events, and we also invite guest speakers to our meetings. We collaborate across the community, as I'll share in the next slide, with many different organizations to help us stock our pantries. And finally, as we continue to expand our services, we are looking for different ways to track our users, our volunteer hours, and the people that we serve. So as I said, alongside of our 75 active volunteers, we could not function without the generosity of many clubs and community organizations. This is a very short list of all of the campus organizations who have helped us stock our pantries. A few of these organizations will simply host a food drive, collecting food as like an attendance for events that they host. Others will go to a grocery store with a list of items that we need and ask shoppers to purchase these foods, and then they'll collect them as they go out. And other groups help with monetary donations. If any of you are in charge of a club or would like to help us with stocking our pantry, we are excited to collaborate with you. It's really simple to be a volunteer. We only require 3 hours a semester, attending 1 mandatory meeting, and obtaining food safe certification upon 6 weeks of entering the club. And as a bonus, you'll get a t-shirt if you work a special event or complete 6 hours of volunteering. So all of you student government students who may not already have enough on your hands, look into the shop. Here are our social media handles. We invite you to follow those. In the upcoming weeks, we'll be having a Giving Tuesday with the ISU Foundation, where we will be collecting donations. And so if you want to follow along with that, that's the best way to stay informed. And a few future goals for the shop. First, just stocking up our inventory for the fall and winter break. These are times where there's still many students on campus who aren't going home for the holidays. And so we want to make sure that we are able to support those students that are still here. We also are looking for ways to man the shop during the summer hours. Right now, we would really like to relocate the campus location, the food science campus location, to another one. And we're talking with another food security workforce group about doing that. With moving our location, we would like to offer produce and other perishable items so that we can offer more nutritious foods for students. And lastly, we are always just open to working with more groups and especially within the community to stock our pantry as our inventory needs to expand. And so with that, I open up the floor for any questions, and of course, just thank you all for listening and supporting the student food pantry.
Questions for our speaker, Senator Klein.
Hi. First of all, I think this is a wonderful service. Thank you for working so hard on it. As far as, you said that it's about 30 students who visit every week, is that correct?
Yes.
How many do you think right now you're equipped to handle student-wise, like every month or every week?
Yeah. Well, so we serve anywhere 30 to 35 students is what we track at our food science pantry right now. We've opened up those 2 other locations off campus within the last 3 years, and currently we don't track how many users come to those. In the last 5-6 months, we've seen a lot of need and a growing demand for restocking those pantries. It used to be, to restock those pantries either one location was every 3 months, the other one self-supplied as it hosted its own food drive. But now we are seeing that we need to stock it at one location every 3 weeks and the other one probably twice a semester. And so I'm not sure how many students that is, as we don't keep track, but we are seeing a growing need at those North Campus apartment locations.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Do you yield? Senator Searles.
Thank you for coming in. So I'm a Freddie Court senator and Freddie Court community advisor, and so I just want to say that the Freddie Court location may or may not have been the one you were referencing as self-supplying. Maybe not. It's very successful. I don't know exact numbers. We track it internally, but it's incredibly successful and incredibly helpful. I know students look forward to it, and we get a lot of donations as well during move out. So it's been a great program at Freddie Court specifically. So I yield.
Senator Meredith.
Do you typically see any items that go quicker? So if people were to host food drives, are there any items that you need more than others or would ask for?
Yes, I would ask that you do not donate green beans or corn. We always have a great supply of that. Right now, the most popular items are the college grab and go kind of snacks. So granola bars, cereals, oatmeal, peanut butter, jelly, things that if you do not have a lot of tools to cook with or a lot of experience in cooking, these are things that you can eat on the go and require little prep time. Fruit cups have also been a hit this fall.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Senator Klein.
Hi. Just a real quick question. How do you track the students that come through your on-campus location, and do you have plans to extend that into the North Campus locations?
Yes, so to track our current campus location, we have our volunteers that staff the food pantry. And so our volunteers come in and their only jobs are to really organize the pantry. If there's donations that come in, they stock it. And their third task is to tally the number of users that come in. So whenever the shop is open on the food pantry location, it's just through tallying. We do not currently know how to track those North Campus locations, as we are just limited in the volunteers that we can have to stock those, but perhaps by working closely with our CA advisors there, we can do a better job of keeping track of those users.
Senator Han Young.
Thank you for coming in. With food pantries, there's typically times of year where they tend to be more stocked and also a little bit drier. What times of year tend to be a little bit less, do your pantries tend to be a little bit less full, and how can food drives at Iowa State help that?
Yeah, great question. So at the beginning and the end of the semester is when our supplies are the lowest. The beginning of the year, just because it's like at the end of the summer when people can freely come in and use it, and we have not yet had any clubs or organizations that have hosted food drives for us. Same with the end of the semester, it just is kind of that time where it's closer to the holidays or closer to maybe where the end of the semester where students are more struggling financially. And so, yeah, I would say the beginning and end, the months of like August, December, January, and May. So.
Chief of Staff Kuzel.
Okay. Hello. Yeah. Again, thank you for all your report on campus. I've just seen a lot of use out of it, and I've seen the benefit, and so it's just so awesome to have great people like you helping out with this. What would you say? I'm trying to think how to word this the best way. So, what's the best way for you all to get food? So, is that just through food donations that organizations do? Like, is that the most effective way, or is there ways that if organizations come to us with wanting to help out, what we tell them that would be a great opportunity for you all? And then also, side question, do you get majority of the food through food drives on campus, or do you see a lot of companies donate food to you all, like in the campus community? I guess that was just more curiosity, but.
Yeah, so the first question was, where do the food drives, like, is it mostly monetary donations or food donations?
Yes.
Yes, so our food pantry location on campus is 100% food donations, and that's probably 3/4 of where our food goes. The other two locations are stocked with our monetary fundraisers. Right now, we are trying to send those who are hosting food drives to take their take their donations to those North Campus locations. So it's kind of a game of supply and demand, but the monetary fundraisers are very helpful because we will pick up groceries from Walmart, and it's a very easy and effective way to stock up those pantries really quickly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Do you yield?
Yes.
Senator That. I called you.
Hello, thank you so much for everything you do. So with food pantries, there's generally a stigma associated with using those. So I guess what I wanted to ask is, have you done anything to work around that? And more importantly, is there any way you think we can help in that process?
That is an excellent question that our executive board has talked a lot about recently, and also has worked hard to make sure that there isn't, we really want to eliminate that food stigma, and I have some personal friends that have thought that they were not food insecure when in fact they really would have benefited from using the food pantry, especially as you all know, probably that this time being in college without a full-time income can be just financially a financial burden. And so things that we have done is just make sure that we are present on campus, and when we are sharing opportunities about the shop, we are promoting it to both volunteers and users. And so when we're at the Student Club Fest, we're saying like, oh, do you want to help hungry college students? Like that simple question invites people to volunteer, but also invites them like, oh, if that's something that I might need, I can use that. And so, yeah. We also work closely with the campus dietitians. There's a food security task force who is better at identifying students who may use the food pantry. And so we make sure that we share our services with them. And so that's spread around. As far as your duty, I guess our ask is that that you would make the food pantry known and help us in doing that, because we want to make sure that we can serve all students. Yeah.
Senator Searles.
So I know I mentioned this, but I don't think so we do track it internally at Freddie, and SUV might do the same, and I know we have months of those records, so if we want to connect, I can get you those for sure. Make sure that's continuing. And then at least within our training at Frederickson Court, it's been incorporated into our CA training on working shop and making sure that stigma is cut down, and we heavily advertise. So it's been going really well. It's a great program, so I don't need to tell you that, but yeah, it's very successful. So thank you for coming in. I yield.
Well, thank you.
Further questions for our speaker? Thank you. Moving on, we have Jessica Leonard from IAC Strategic Facilities Plan from Ayers St. Gross. And the floor is all yours.
Thank you. My name is Jessica Leonard. I'm a consultant that was hired by the university. Our team, Air St. Gross, we're based in Baltimore, and we are in the very beginning of kicking off the university's strategic facilities plan. So we're really glad that you invited us to come. We've been spending September and November meeting with most of the stakeholder groups on campus, so student government, faculty, staff, the standing committees, and making sure that we're introducing this process and helping people understand what we're going to do over the next 18 months. So today we just want to introduce who we are, talk about the purpose of the plan, our process, and then just open up for discussion if you have any questions about it or how you might want to get involved. So Air St. Gross, we are a multidisciplinary architecture and planning firm. As I said, based in Baltimore. We also have offices in Washington, D.C. and Tempe, Arizona. And we're unique in that almost 85% of our work is for higher education. So we're working for colleges and universities around the country. I spend the majority of my time working on large public land grants like Iowa State. And so I think one of the reasons why FP&M hired us and other leadership on campus was because we bring that expertise, but we also really have spent a lot of time getting to know you to make sure that our planning process is unique to you and your needs on campus. It's not just me, we have a large team that is here each time on campus. I'm the project manager, Evan Totes, sitting over here. He is also an Iowa State alum, so he brings a really great perspective and knowledge of the campus from spending many years here, as well as an Iowan himself. We were here the first part of this year, so from January through June, we spent time meeting with stakeholder groups where we were trying to understand what the needs were for the campus so we could create a scope of work that we've just embarked on this fall. And so we spent time meeting with different groups on campus. We also took a bunch of data that the university had. So what has your enrollment trends been? How much space do you have on campus? What plans have you already done for different programs and buildings? And pulled all that together to help understand what you really need and can benefit for moving forward. Where we are today and the goal of this plan, and I understand that for people that don't live and breathe buildings and campuses all day like me, this might be a little foreign, so I'll welcome questions at the end, but We recognize, and the university has recognized, that you have an amazing campus. You have a physical place that has been here for a very long time. That also comes with challenges when you've had buildings that have been built over 100 years ago. You are not unique. This is a challenge across campus, but the university and the senior leadership have really thought about it's a good opportunity to step back and think about how you can think about strategically investing in your facilities. So we're thinking about the whole campus, your open space, how you move around campus, circulation and parking, but we're really thinking about how the facilities can support student success, the research mission of the institution, and other needs for recreation and student housing. We have 4 primary goals. The first thing we're doing is we're trying to understand who you are and how much space you should have based on the size of the institution today. So based on your enrollment, the number of faculty and staff, your program goals, how much space physically do you need on campus to support that mission? And then figure out how we can best align and make recommendations to get the amount of space you might need. And if you were to grow, shrink, add programs, have different goals, what you might need in the future. And then think about how, in addition to buildings, how we can improve the circulation, Cyride, parking is always a popular discussion topic, how you support the overall campus and open space so that it's an attractive place that makes students and faculty want to come and stay here. And then finally, as we work with FP&M and other stakeholders on campus, making sure we're leaving you with tools that this is not a plan that's going to sit on the shelf and never get implemented. It's something that is a living tool that can be used over time. So what we've done is we've crafted a 3-phase process. We are still in phase 1, the very beginning, we're at number 2. And I'm gonna walk through what each phase looks like, but it's essentially understanding, assessing the campus, spending time in phase 2 where we're designing and thinking about opportunities, and then pulling it all together into a series of recommendations. So the campus assessment phase, what we've been spending a lot of time is we've toured campus, we've walked through representative buildings from every college student life, trying to understand what is working well, what buildings might be older, how they're built, are they flexible to be repurposed if needed. We have a series of campus open houses. How many of you have already participated in an open house? Great, yay. Well, great, you have an opportunity tomorrow because our last one is tomorrow afternoon over lunch, and we'll talk about that at the end. But we have been engaging. We had one this morning at Vet Med. We just had one from 4 to 6 at the UDCC. I know I was going to mess up that acronym. And then tomorrow we're in the room down, the Pine Room here. And we have 2-hour blocks. It's open to students, faculty, and staff. We've met about 300 people on campus so far, which has been a great representation. And we're just trying to understand, how do you get to campus? How do you use the facilities? Where do you spend your time? Are there enough study spaces on campus? Are the quality of the classrooms or your teaching labs or your rec spaces, are they meeting your needs for student success? So this is really important information that we want to hear from you because it's going to impact the future. And I know you'll be gone in 4 years or less, but you have to think about future generations and how you can help improve that. We're also pulling a lot of data, as we said, understanding what are the Cyride routes, where are each college buildings, how are they located and distributed on campus. That helps us kind of create a roadmap of where you are today and what might be opportunities for the future. We're also doing a lot of listening sessions. We're doing a lot of engagement meetings like this where we're meeting with stakeholders, helping them understand what we're doing, and then also getting feedback. We're meeting with each college, meeting with student life and residence life, enrollment services, pretty much the gamut of the institution to try to learn as much information about where they are today, what the challenges are with space, and how the space is helping support their goals and mission. What we'll do with that is pull it all together in a series of themes and opportunities that will help guide our planning. So what are some issues right now? Is it that the condition of facilities are not great, that you need more of a certain type of space, that connectivity or adjacency of certain programs? These are types of things that we would start to recommend and see rise to the top. Once we have that, we'll enter into a 3-month concept development phase. And this is where it's really exciting for us, but can be a little bit foreign for those that are not in the planning world. So what we'll do is we'll take the needs on campus, we'll take the opportunities that we've seen and the issues that we've heard, and we'll start to marry up solutions and try to think about what buildings might be opportunities for renovation. what might have used its useful life and maybe is an opportunity for demolition? And then if needed, do you need more space on campus? And just thinking through and helping the university prioritize how to invest in facilities to best meet the needs of the students in the future, and faculty and staff, but of course students first. And then we will pull all those together once we get feedback and have final recommendations. And this was an example from Ohio State, and I would say that their plan was about growth, and so you can see a lot of new buildings to the west. We're really thinking this will be more like the core, like where's some infill opportunities? How do you renovate existing facilities? What are needs that might need for housing and other support services on campuses? So we're really aligning the strategic goals and the mission of the university with the facilities and making sure that the physical campus is supporting where the university wants to go in the future. We'll also think about phasing. So what are some of the priority projects? And if you need to renovate a building, you might need to get the people out of that building in order to do that. And so where's some, we call it swing space, where can people go in the interim? So helping prioritize, helping think about funding strategies, what is good for donors? What might be good state asks? How can this actually be implementable and help the university? And then we pull that all together into a documentation. The last full campus master plan has lived a really great useful life of a couple decades, and so this is really targeted for facilities to help give a same roadmap for the institution. So that's where we are. Open up for any questions or thoughts about engagement with the student population.
Questions and comments for our speaker. Senator Rowling.
Hi, thank you so much for coming to speak with us tonight. Vice Speaker Schrader, can you scroll back a little bit for me?
I can scroll. I've got a
Oh,
clicker.
you've got it. Excellent. Sorry.
Got to come prepared.
I think it was back one more, if we may. Oh, maybe a couple forward. Sorry. There was a statistic I saw in here. So first of all, are all these graphs based off of ISU's information?
No, sorry, I should have explained. We were pulling examples as how we've done this on other campuses to show you examples of different information that we will be providing. So we will do exercises where we'll look at how well your classes rooms are utilized. We will look at we'll do maps of where different colleges are located on campus. How many beds of housing do you have by which type? Where are students living? So we will create similar graphics for this institution. These are examples that we've done at similar peer institutions.
Okay, perfect. I had saw a very interesting statistic I wanted to point out that must have been for another institution that claimed that 43% of classrooms were poor quality.
So that was
something
that
I
was
wanted
at
to
Purdue.
address.
So you can think about your peer institutions. No, so we will be doing similar look at data, and that's part of what we're also getting. So the data will tell us something. So we'll look at the condition of facilities. We'll map where the space types are. So you might say that 50% of your classroom space is in poor condition, but we're also asking students and stakeholders to give their qualitative opinions, because we look at it from a facility. The facility might not be great, or the facility might be great, but maybe the furniture in the room isn't great. Maybe the technology is not supporting your needs. And so that's where the engagement of these open houses is really important, because we're getting your additional information of if you think classrooms, class labs, your collaboration space, your rec space, is it meeting your needs or is it not? And that's where your input is really helpful.
Thank you. I'm an engineering student. I love data, so I saw some of those graphs and tried to pull some of that to speak with you about. One further question I have for you.
Sure.
Can you discuss kind of your goals towards working in sustainability at all on campus?
Sure.
Is that something that's been addressed by the administration in their goals?
Yes, so we have met with campus sustainability, and we're definitely thinking about, buildings themselves are one of the greatest energy users in the world. And so when we think about our planning process, that's why we think about renovation first. So how can we best use existing facilities before we look to build new? We're also going to be looking at where are the big energy users on campus, and we try to align research space is higher intensity than office space. And so making sure that facilities are supporting the right types of systems. And then we'll also think about it from the outdoor infrastructure and try to have an overall arching. And so we really work with the universities to help meet their goals. This is still at a high level. We're not going to get down to all the carbon data or all the energy data, but we do definitely think about it, and hopeful this plan will help move you in the right direction to your sustainable goals.
Does that include anything along the lines of looking for alternative energy sources for different buildings specifically, or are you looking at it more as a broad stroke?
That could be a high-level recommendation. We would not go into detailed analysis about how a certain building could perform with different systems, but we could say if a goal was to use different alternative energy, what buildings might be candidates or how that could look, but it wouldn't be a detailed analysis at each building level.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much
Yep.
for coming tonight. I
Yep.
yield.
Senator Stanley.
Awesome. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Hello? Okay, cool. Thank you for coming in today. So the goal of this, if I understand correctly, is to devise investment strategy in our facilities with kind of a renovation-first approach.
Yes, that's one of the main goals, yes.
Okay. So could potentially there be a focus on renovating spaces in existing buildings to turn them into kind of revenue generators, to put like, perhaps dining or other kind of vendors in those spaces so that it kind of offsets the expenses a bit?
In theory, I would say it's a lot more complicated than that. I think that we're looking at all the different funding sources. We're looking at general fund spaces, auxiliary enterprise, revenue generation comprehensively, and some of our leadership teams include groups that would speak to both. And so it's not as simple as just having that offset, because there's different ways that buildings are funded and revenue comes in. But I think we are trying to think creatively about providing those types of amenities where they should be located on campus and how that might offset. But the way that money falls is not as simple as that. Because it's in that building, it goes to that building. It's a little more complicated, and I'll let anyone over there answer that if I didn't do it correctly. But I would say yes, we're thinking about it, but it's not as simple as if dining's in this building, it's going to offset the rest of the construction of that building, for instance.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm.
I'll yield.
Senator Alucard.
Give a plug for the open house.
Yeah, it was more of a comment than a question, sorry. So today at Vet Med, they actually set up within the commons area, and they had students and staff participate, and they had food, and it was great. And so they looked at different aspects of how we get there. And so Vet Med's kind of unique in that we're sort of geographically isolated from main campus. So it was really interesting to see. It's like, how often do you, or how many hours of a day do you spend in this building? It's like 8+ hours. Everyone's on that side. So we are a pretty unique population, but we also looked at how many hours we spend on main campus. And then there was also opportunities for us to put Post-its of our own ideas. So something that might not have been listed, but we thought was something that was important. So one of the things that myself and other constituents put up was the need for gender-inclusive bathrooms. So they don't exist essentially at Vet Med. There's like single-stalled bathrooms shoved in like a corner on part of the campus. And so just to have administration know that that's a priority within the students or staff as well. We also talked about accessibility. So like strobing lights during emergencies. We had an instance where a fire drill was broken, so it was going off at Vet Med, and instructors were teaching through it. But students didn't actually know if it was real or not. And so just increasing access to different target populations is really important. So this isn't just big picture stuff too. If you have a really great idea on how this can be a better university, this is a great opportunity to give feedback, even if it might not affect you directly, if you'll graduate or whatnot. I highly recommend that if you have ideas that you speak up. I yield.
I completely agree.
Senator Zastro.
Thank you for coming. This seems like a fantastic project. I'm really glad that this is something that we're working on. First of all, I'd like to echo what Senator Alucard just said. I think that this is a university that would highly appreciate more gender-neutral or genderless restrooms on campus. I think that there are a lot of facilities which could be repurposed, or at least some floor of a lot of facilities. I know that there are lots of dorms that have accessibility issues. I live in Friley, and there are entire sections of Friley that you can't get to if you're not able to walk, which is a problem, as well as lots of Richardson Court dorms don't have elevators, so anything above the first floor you can't get to. I had a friend who lived there who broke her leg, and she had to move because of it, because she wasn't able to get to her room. So really glad that you're going through. I'd also like to say I'm in a philosophy of aesthetic class right now, and we're talking about architecture.
Yeah.
We had a vote today, and everyone agreed that Ross Hall is not a good building. So
Great.
there we go. I yield. Thank you.
Put that one on the list.
Senator Green.
I would also like to echo everyone and note the importance of the gender-inclusive restrooms. But my question was, what is the biggest university project that you've worked on, and how much did that end up costing?
So I guess our firm being interdisciplinary, we work on projects of all different scales. So I spend the majority of my time working at the campus master plan level. So I'm really helping vision, think big picture. The university has a strategic plan. They want to grow research. They want to invest in their facilities. They want to improve the identity, make it more welcoming. And so we recommend a roadmap that really then results in a series of projects. And so, you know, those projects can range from $100 million new building to a couple $100,000 landscape improvement that, you know, can really transform a campus. As a firm, you know, we're doing a large hospital building at Johns Hopkins University that is, you know, $150 million. I mean, it's huge. And so, you know, $200 million. So there's large scales. And as a firm, we bring the expertise of, you know, we do a lot of residence halls. We have expertise in student life facilities. And so it's really the gamut. For me, as I said, I really love the large, complex research institutions. I think the mission of land grants is really important. And you're doing really important work around higher ed. So I think that we look, though, to have plans that are implementable at multiple scales. And so your comments about gender neutral bathrooms or accessibility, that projects can be smaller and really impactful to large new facilities or large renovations that can transform a large population over a long period of time. And so I think we're looking at the full gamut here, and we call some of it more low-hanging fruit, things that can make quick wins and quick impact, and others might be larger projects that would take a larger time to implement.
Senator Blair.
So a couple people have asked questions about money and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I guess I just want to know, like, Iowa specifically has had, over the last couple decades, a big disinvestment in our public universities, colleges. Even last year, there was a protest in front of the Student Innovation Center because there's like this perception of money being spent while our tuition is rising 5, 6, 7% every year. And of course, there are buildings that need to be built and renovated, of course, and the funding sources are complex. But what, I guess, is your point of view on the role of these kind of projects in an era of like disinvestment from our institutions? And then second, like, how do you take into account like the reality or even like the perception of those?
So great question. It is pretty much the topic of one of the important topics of higher ed today. So you're not unique. I think that higher ed in general is really facing challenges of a lot of scrutiny around cost of higher education, cost of degrees, what is the value add, but recognizing that universities didn't happen overnight. It took a very long time to build the infrastructure that you have today. And at different periods of time, there was building booms, and then that has resulted in maintenance issues in older facilities. And so I recommend, and I'm a believer, that you need to be good stewards of your resources, and I think that investment is important. I think that universities, the reason why plans like this are really important is because universities are recognizing that they can't keep building new without addressing their existing facilities, that that's not being wise, it's not being good resources, and that if you can use what you already have better, you're gonna be using your financial resources. I also think that it's forcing universities to be more creative in how they're spending their money, and I think that Iowa State, I know Purdue, there's a lot of institutions that they're adamant about trying to keep the cost of tuition as low as possible. So how can you do that? And I don't have the perfect answer. I would say that I applaud your institution that that is a goal. And so we're trying to figure out and work with you to figure out how you can make some of these impactful changes and keep your facilities meeting the needs of what you need for cutting edge teaching and learning in a way that will not inflate something out of balance. So I know I didn't directly answer because I don't think there is an answer right now, but I think that you're not alone as an institution or as a state. It's something across the country, and I mean, I hope that, that there's more investment nationally or by larger donors that can really invest in higher ed, because I believe it's really important, and I've seen the impact of what education can do in the world from my career.
Thank you for coming tonight. I'm currently a Ivy College Business Senator, and our college is going through one of the largest renovation projects on campus currently. But unfortunately, it also means that it's one of the largest road closures on campus. That is kind of inconvenient for not only me, but a lot of the other people in this room. So how do you take construction on campus into account in your plans without disrupting current infrastructure, the travel patterns of students, and then also the green space that's really a highlight of campus here?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that at a master plan level, we're not going to get in the weeds of all of that. A lot of that, when a project comes into fruition, the design team really needs to work and think about those more impactful moves. But I think what we like to think about is we think about all the moves that take place for a project to happen and what are the impacts. And so whether that means that people have to move out of a building for a period of time, whether that's going to impact, is there an open site, or do you have to demolish something in order to build a new space? Are you going to close major roadways? We like to think about that and at least address up front what the impact will be. And you wouldn't want to do too many projects in one area that would overly impact. But I mean, I don't know of a campus I've been on in the country in the last 15, 20 years that hasn't had a constant cycle of investment in building. And so that's always going to have an impact. And I think any institution would like to minimize that as much as possible, but recognizing that even if you're in a city, you're always going to be navigating different road closures. But I think our philosophy is trying to minimize that as much as possible, or at least isolate it to certain areas so that it wouldn't be as much of an issue.
Thank you. I yield.
Senator Class.
So I have two questions, I guess. So one is you talked about how you just kind of give the master plan to the university or institution. Do you have an average of how long you guys usually recommend that takes? Like you said, you had phasing and things. Do you have an average of how long a whole master plan would take to finish?
It's a great question. So it depends. Usually what we do is we have about a 10-year window where we have, anything in the 5-year usually has the most detail and understanding. We usually plan more specifically for a 10-year window, but a lot of our planning has a long-term vision in mind. So we could identify sites or land use strategies for areas of campus that you might not realize for 20 or 30 years, but you don't want to make a decision in the near term that it's going to preclude you from doing something that's great for the campus in the long term. And so some places we might not put building footprints, but we would say this land would be great for future research or expansion of partnerships or entrepreneurship, whatever it is. And that would help the university know how to prioritize where they're going to put facilities or make decisions. But we're really looking at a 10-year window to really think about, what the climate would be around enrollment and faculty staff numbers and research and programmatic goals.
Cool. And then my other question is, you kind of mentioned how some institutions have a strategic plan of welcoming more people or expanding research. I don't know if I missed this, but do you know Iowa State's what kind of your goal was, or not goal, but
So
motto
we
going in?
have met with the president, and we've also her addresses to the university in the beginning, strategic goals. So accessibility, inclusivity, the research are big things. I think that one of the reasons this plan is happening is because she's recognized that there is a need to invest in facilities and make sure student success is huge, and so facilities play a big part in that. I don't have it memorized right now, but I would say that you can go on the website, and she has a very poignant talk that lists about a lot of them, but some of them are very specific that can be articulated to the physical campus and buildings, and some of them, when you think about increasing recruitment and retention or accessibility, inclusivity, spaces can help with that, but there's a lot more of operations and policies that have to go along with implementing a strategic vision, and so we try to work and figure out how we can support that within the institution.
Cool. Thank you very much. I yield.
Senator Klein.
Hi, thanks for being here.
Yep.
Again, I wanted to echo a call earlier for making sure that gender-inclusive restrooms are the thing that we have here on campus, especially in areas of campus that don't have them, like vet med. I just had a really small question about, you said there was an open house tomorrow, right, at noon? Where Or
11 to 1
11 to 1? And where was that at?
in the Pine Room, right down the
Pine Room,
hall.
Okay. That's it.
And today we were at Vet Med and then the Commons.
Okay. And have you visited out at Towers yet? Or
We've not. We were trying to do 3 places that would get the majority of, people while they're on campus. We've been really pleased with the turnout, and I think, anytime we do this, if we get up to 600 by the time we're done, I think that's a really good, if you send out a survey, that would be a great result. I think we're still thinking as a group and a working group of, what are other ways to engage and, making sure that people feel that they've had a voice heard. And so part of what we came here is to, understand the students' interest in the process and hoping that we can continue to get your feedback throughout.
and have you considered like implementing like a survey for campus just to gauge people who couldn't or didn't know about the workshops?
We have discussed it, trying to understand if that's something that you feel in the past would be successful and whether we would get any more responses than we've gotten. I feel like getting up to 600 responses is pretty good when we do surveys, response rates, they run the gamut. So I would throw it back to you if you think that your institution is a culture and a climate that responds well to surveys, if they would really understand what this is to be able to respond. I think once you know about it, you get excited, but just curious what you think would be the most impactful way to make sure people feel that they've had opportunities to participate.
No, I think a survey, in my opinion, would be an effective tool at gauging student interest, especially if it's more of like an open-ended survey where you could receive a decent amount of feedback in the form of a written answer. That would just be my 2 cents. Thank you.
Do you? I just had a quick question. What was the rationale behind only being on campus for a week and not for 2 weeks? Because I feel like within those 2 weeks, you would have been able to cover more students in terms of more new students that would be able to voice their opinions on.
So when we created this process, we are actually here every month for 18 months. So we're going to be here a lot. And so this, a week is actually a really long time for us to spend 5 days on a campus. Usually we're here for 2 to 3 to 4 days at a time. So we'll be back in December. Unfortunately, that's not the best time to meet with students when you're in the middle of exams. And then throughout the spring. And so we're discussing other times that might be good to continue to meet and maybe meet with portions of the student government as part of a standing group for our committees.
Further questions for our speaker? Well, seeing none, thank you so much
Thanks.
for coming out. We'll go ahead and move into open forum. Open forum is an open discussion for issues relevant to students. Anyone wishing to speak can approach the lectern.
Hi, guys. It's not a question or concern. My name is Kate. I'm the College of Vet Med senator for those of you guys who are in our audience. So yesterday, a group of students met with several administrators at the College of Veterinary Medicine to address the growing concerns of xenophobia, racism, anti-Semitism, etc., on both main campus and the College of Veterinary Medicine. It was attended by our dean, the assistant dean, and the director of our Office of Academic and Student Affairs, as well as a member from the, sorry, I'm losing track, the chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee at CVM, as well as someone from the Diversity and Inclusion Office here on main campus. So we sat there for over 2 hours with a specific group of students that indicated that they wanted to give feedback, and they were really receptive to what we had to say. We talked about being transparent with staff and faculty about what was going on, because a lot of students said, at the CVM campus that they really didn't know what was happening. And so I was really happy to hear that this morning at the staff meeting for the College of Vet Med, the dean actually got up and outwardly said that
the behavior on main campus as well as the anti-LGBTQIA behavior that was on the vet med campus was unacceptable, and actually showed it and said that this was not going to be tolerated here. And it was just a very bold and outward transparent stance to take. And I really laud that kind of behavior. I just sort of wanted to share that with you guys because there are people who are affected by the main campus stuff that maybe aren't on main campus, but we are doing stuff about it even at our level. And I was just really impressed with that. Overall, we do want to create a, world of inclusion, whether we're geographically isolated or not. But I just think it's really important to acknowledge when leaders say that they're going to do something and they actually do it. So that's just what I wanted to let you guys know.
Thank you, Kate. Further speakers for open forum? Seeing none, we'll move down to adopting tonight's agenda. Are there any additions or changes to tonight's agenda? Senator Class.
So I moved to, where is it at? I need to, sorry. Well, okay, so I know one thing I know. To move 2019-2-040F funding, because I said I would, to the bottom of general orders. Thanks.
So there's a motion to move 2019-2-40F funding because I said I would from top of general orders to the bottom of general orders.
Yes, please.
And there's been a second. Are there any objections in moving that bill to the bottom of general orders? Seeing none, the bill has been moved. Senator Class.
And then I moved to add a bill that I don't know the number of, the Ultimate Frisbee debt contract. Is that a numbered bill? We tabled it. Oh, I moved to take from the table. We had tabled it previously. So I don't know what that number.
Second.
36F.
Cool. 36F. To before 2019-2-040F.
So there's been a motion to add 2019-2-36F. Is it a debt contract?
Yeah, it's a debt contract.
Okay.
Ultimate Frisbee debt contract. Thank you.
Moving that bill above 2019-2-40F. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a second. Are there any objections in adding that bill to the agenda? Seeing none, the bill has been added. Senator Class.
And then I moved to postpone indefinitely the funding special election.
There's been a motion to move to postpone 2019-2-42F funding a special election, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Any objections? Seeing none, the bill has been postponed indefinitely. Senator Class.
So I moved to table the 2019-2-044F funding Symphony of Diversity for 1 week.
Second.
There's been a motion to table 2019-2-44F funding Symphony of Diversity to 1 week, and there's been a second. Are there any objections?
Can I speak about it quick? Well, then I don't want to.
Any objections?
That's fine. Just, yeah.
Seeing none, the bill has been tabled to 1 week. Senator Class. There's been a motion to move to adopt tonight's agenda, and there's been a second. Are there any objections in adopting tonight's agenda? Seeing none, the agenda has been adopted. Moving on to approval of last week's minutes. Are there any changes to last week's meeting minutes? There's been a motion to move to approve last week's meeting minutes, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Yes.
So last week was obviously a very extensive meeting. Do you have to approve last week's minutes within a week of it being done? Like, we were just sent out the minutes, and so some of us maybe didn't get through the whole document. So like, are we able to table it for like a week, or is that faux pas? I apologize if this is.
Yeah, I believe it's not the case because we have to approve last week's minutes in the next meeting.
Okay.
But if you have any changes, you can
No, that's fine. I was unable to read the entire document, and so.
Right, it was a huge document. for
Correct,
sure.
and I can't be the only one, and so I wasn't sure. That's
Right,
okay.
I mean, if there are any changes, you can bring it up into the,
Okay.
in the next meetings, and then we can go about maybe a discussion or things like
So
that.
even if we approve it, there is a way to potentially go back.
We will find the way.
Oh, okay. I yield.
Any objections to, we approved the last week's minutes, so we go ahead and move down to committee reports, standing off the rules with Madam Speaker.
Okay, hi everyone. We did not have a lot to talk about in rules, so we just did some more constitutional review because our constitution is a mess. And we have the official bill for the constitutional changes that we'll be proposing in the spring up for first read this week. So make sure you're looking over those because it is a 5-page bill. So
Questions for Madam Speaker? Moving on to Finance Committee with Finance Director Mueller.
Oh, I just sent out the Mueller report. I forgot to send it. It was all done, and then I put the wrong date on it. So I'm sorry. It's been a day. But today we are seeing a few different bills. I put in the Mueller report. I doubt you've seen it yet. But if we fund everything, the two bills coming from Senate discretionary today, we will have $3,700 left in Senate discretionary for the rest of the entire year. Just think about that quick. Okay. So yeah, we're running out of money there, but we have lots of money in the rest of the accounts, so that's good. Today we decided to table the Symphony of Diversity bill because they have asked for funding through two other sources that they're waiting on answers from. So we wanted to make sure that we sent it favorably. We like the bill. We just want to make sure that we know what their other funding sources are before we move forward with our total amount. So we were going to wait till next week for them to get us more information. We are seeing a debt contract today. This is debt contracts. This is the first one we're seeing this year. When an org goes into debt and they still want student government funding, if they have a good case for why they went into debt, it looks like they are going to make a good effort to keep up with the debt contract in the future. We are able to write one of these. It looks like a loan. There's no money actually moved. It just zeroes out their account, so they're able to still get student government funding so their org can still function, so that they can do more fundraising, so that they can pay off that debt. So that is the goal of that. I can answer some questions now, or we can ask specifically if you have for this specific debt contract, we can ask them during the debt contract. Are there any more questions about that?
Questions for Finance Director Mueller? Senator Zastrow.
Yeah, just a correction. We sent the Symphony of Diversity bill, no bias. I yield.
I don't know. Oh.
Further questions for Finance Director Mueller? Seeing none, we move down to Student Initiatives Committee with Senator Rowling.
Hi, everybody. So we have a couple updates for student initiatives today. First being that we solidified the date for the Campus Safety Walk. It's going to be November 11th, which is actually Monday, this upcoming Monday at 7 p.m. We're going to be working with ISUPD for that, as well as hopefully reaching out to certain aspects of DOR, as well as FP&M to make that a successful time. You'll be seeing a sign up for that coming out this week. Please help. We love to have all the boots on the ground that we can for that. In addition, we have the funding winter weather bags tonight. That bill is going to come up. It passed through Finance Committee, but I am very excited for the discussion for that as well. In addition, we saw a resolution today in committee. We'll be recommending some amendments made there. Thank you to all the other senators who were able to come and give some background and some feedback as well. In addition, for the resolution that is now on first read for this upcoming, for this meeting, we will be seeing that one next week in committee. I yield.
Questions for Senator Rowling? Senator Searle.
Senator Rowling, how drastically helpful would it be for everyone to sign up to help out at the Campus Safety Walk?
It would be impressive if we can get all senators, and I think it would be a show that we really care about our campus safety. Thank you for that question.
You're welcome. I yield.
Further questions for Senator Rowling? Seeing none, we move down to PR committee with Senator Anyang. Oh, Director of Outreach Works. My bad.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so a couple things that are coming up. I put up the residency fair tabling sign up. We need people from 3 to 6 p.m. on November 19th. We're looking for about 5 spots for that. Each be outside the MU, handing out and telling people where to go, as well as like inside, handing out maps and stuff like that. And then also coming up next semester is the Lifestyle Expo, and we have a student government table for that at State Gym. So we're looking for signups for that January 30th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then also, if you haven't filled out your Senate or Cabinet Spotlight survey, you should do that. Cool. Okay. I think that's it.
Questions for Director of Outreach Swords? Senator Meredith.
Wouldn't it be neat if people sent us photographs of them doing things on campus? That way the only thing we don't post on social media are flyers, right, Carrie? They don't
Right,
necessarily
yeah.
have to be like a super professional photograph, just like a high quality, here's what I did on campus, look, here's what your student government is doing.
Or if you meet with constituents.
Exactly, just something to break up the flyers is all. Thank you, I yield.
Further questions? Seeing none, we move down to Diversity and Inclusion Committee with Director of Diversity and Inclusion Hoffman.
Hello, everyone. First off, I hope everybody read the notes that I took for our Monday's meeting. If you have any questions on that, please let me know. Again, it was as comprehensive as a list that I could get. I also will be taking notes for this Thursday's meeting, so if you have any questions about that, I still think it'd be a good show of solidarity to attend if you can. Again, if you have questions or whatnot, please let me know. We are currently in a couple partnerships right now. So we had a Senior Director of Student Services come by on a partnership with an event that's going to be happening with the Alliance for Disability Awareness. We also had time with our ex officio Ames City Council liaison, I had to look that up, coming by and talking about different matters of diversity and inclusion in the Ames kind of surrounding area and whatnot, and how, if we had any recommendations. We also took time then to talk about everything happening on campus and what we can do moving forward. Good news, we found a possible avenue for getting flags. I talked with individuals from ISSO who have some. They said it's in a warehouse or in a closet or something, so we're gonna find them. I was told by the president that they have over 200 flags, so we'll find them. And then finally, we talked about a possible partnership with Director of Student Health and Wellness, Raya, about doing some different videos. So we're gonna kind of see where we go from with that. But otherwise, yes, if you have any questions on any of the notes that I'm taking within these meetings happening on campus. And again, just wanna really, really highlight that I think it's important that we show up to these. Not only are they our constituents, not only are they, people that we work with, but these are students on campus. And we should be showing them a solidarity with matters that are happening and that are occurring to them and with them. So showing up means a lot. Just saying that you're gonna be there, just saying, I support you means one thing. Showing up with them means another. That's it.
Questions for Director Hoffman? Senator Green.
You said Thursday, but where and what time, just to clarify?
Sunroom, 7 p.m. It's also live streamed.
Further questions for Director Hoffman? Seeing none, we move down to civic engagement with Senator Samuel.
Okay, so Tony is really sick. So at the meeting, we were talking about stickers to give away for I'm a student and I vote. And interesting news, yesterday was elections, and Ward 4 election is potentially going on a runoff election because Rachel Junk had the highest vote, but it fell short of 50% plus one. So the runoff election is going to be held on December 3rd, and we're planning on tabling more. And then we had some halls talk about how they would partner with us to get registration forms at the hall desk. And then there is a campus voter registration initiative that Kiana's taking on. And Tony received an email about an opportunity for like the ISU students to join the Iowa Census Complete Count Committee. It's a committee formed by Iowa Governor Reynolds to promote active census participation statewide. So if you guys are interested, Tony can give more information on that. And to sign up, we have the link. So that's all.
Questions for Senator Samuel? Seeing none, we move down to comments from the executive branch with President Graber.
So Elena and my updates kind of overlap. So the first thing I had was the Students Against Racism updates. So obviously tomorrow in the sunroom of the Moral Union at 7 p.m., the administration will be meeting with the group and students in general. And in attendance from the administration will be President Winterstein, Provost Wickert, Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion, Dr. Reg Stewart, Chief of Iowa State Police, Chief Newton, University Counsel Mike Norton, and Dr. Martino Harmon. I believe Pete will also be there, and other administration will also be in attendance. And the meeting will also be live streamed on our accounts. They asked us to use them, and I was like, yes, it's a student issue, so obviously we'll do that. And then we had the meeting on Monday, the campus conversation that Elena took notes for. It sounded like it was a great meeting. It continued the conversation, so I sent those notes in my email, so feel free to read those. They were very comprehensive, great job on that. And then tomorrow I have a child care task force meeting. So President Winterstein has charged a task force to address the child care crisis within the Ames and surrounding community. And so if you have any constituents come up to you that they have concerns in regards to child care, or you have your own concerns, please let me know and I'll bring that up to the group. It'll be our second meeting. I'm still kind of wrapping my head around this. But let me know either way. And then the last update is student counseling services updates. So on Tuesday, we released a wonderful video of Director RB showing, did I butcher your last name, or is that good? Okay, sorry, I thought you were wondering, okay. Anyways, it was a great video highlighting student counseling services. She showed herself walking into the building, the staff and the faculty that you'll see, and what the experience is like for students who will go into the office. So I thought it was a great job by you for doing that. She also sat down with Dr. Chris Haynes, who's the Director of Student Counseling Services, as well, and other counselors, and just asked them about their position and what students should know. So I thought that was an awesome job. In addition, Vice President Bhatia and I sat down with Dr. Chris Haynes yesterday for another fireside chat. So that'll be released on Friday as usual. So please watch that and then share it as well, because it's a lot of great information in regards to counseling. And then lastly, Christine is here. She will be helping us out with advising. So if you have any questions or concerns related to advising, Christine will help us out. I have a meeting with her tomorrow at 3 p.m. in her office. That was oddly specific, but that's what's going to happen. So we'll brief her over student government and what she should know. Do you want to introduce yourself real quick? That'd be awesome.
Hi, so I'm Christine Heflin. I'm the Associate Director here in the MU for Student Activities. So my office is in the e-student office space, which I'm sure you all are familiar. Feel free to drop in whenever. I have been here on campus for maybe 5 weeks now, so still learning a lot about Iowa State, but I grew up here in Ames, actually. And so I am familiar with campus a little bit. Did my undergraduate work at University of Iowa, and then the last 9 years I've been in Northern Arizona. So I'm excited to be back here, have some experience advising student government, so really excited to work with you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hyatt, what's up? Questions for President Graber? Senator Samuel.
So has it been confirmed that tomorrow's event is for everyone? Because yesterday we were talking about it and there was possibility that it was only invitation.
Nope, so I asked Dr. Harmon about this and he said it's open to all students. So.
Okay, I yield.
Further questions for President Graber? Seeing none, we move down to external matters. Within external matters, general orders. 2019-2-43F, funding Ethos Magazine with Senator Lifford.
First, I move to accept the amendments recommended by Finance Committee.
Second.
Sorry, I must have missed this when you said. Give me a second.
What?
He's pulling up.
I
the
didn't have it
amendment.
pulled up before. I must have missed it.
Okay.
Do you need them reset?
So you need me to resend them?
I am. You want to talk about?
In the meantime, we have a representative from the group here.
Hi, I'm Rachel O'Brien. I'm the president and editor-in-chief of Ethos Magazine. So to give you all a little bit of context about what we do, Ethos Magazine is a student-run publication. We cover the culture of Iowa State, and we've been publishing since 1947. We've won multiple American Collegiate Publication Awards. We write meaningful stories about students on this campus in hopes of promoting diversity and inclusion. For example, last year we wrote a story on the history of pronouns. In the past, we've written on sexual harassment on campus as well. This magazine is well read by students. We've had release parties that hand out every single magazine that we've printed. Personally, it has allowed me to expand my portfolio, and it allows my writers to expand their portfolios. And by giving us this funding, we'll be able to print our upcoming issue.
Questions for speaker? Senator Johnson.
I just want to say thank you for the work that you've done. I've noticed it since I got onto campus, and I feel like it's really mature and helpful writing, and I just want to say thank you. I have no questions. I yield.
Thanks for reading.
Senator Class.
All right, so we're just gonna do it this way. I move to amend the bill by changing the quantity to 2 and the cost to 2,000. It's the same, we're just having it be $2,000 per semester, because they do 2 issues.
There's been a motion to move to amend the bill and change the quantity to 2 and cost to $2,000. And there's been a second. We move into discussion. Senator Class.
Call the question.
Second.
There's been a call to question on the amendment, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into placard vote, and there's been a call for unanimous consent. Are there any objections in approving the amendment by the way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the amendment stands approved. Senator Class.
Can you talk to, explain why you guys didn't come through annuals, like our spring funding process? I know you guys talked about it in the finance meeting, but if you could just tell the whole group.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
So annual process or annual allocations is when clubs can come in and do basically the same thing, but we have more money to give. So we kind of talked to you guys about it in finance committee about why you guys didn't show up. I think you talked about a change of entire executive team.
Yeah, so we've had a little bit of change in leadership. I am kind of flowing out, and Lauren over there is kind of flowing into it. So basically, we're just splitting this up and then trying to keep printing for this semester, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so just, come in the spring, you'll get an email, your treasurer should. And also if people, never mind, I'm not gonna, that's fine. Lost train of thought. I yield.
Senator Zastro.
There we go. Yeah, thanks for coming. I'd just like to note this is consistent with what we funded Cardinal Eats. So we set a precedent this semester that we're going to be funding publications $4,000 during special allocations, $2,000 for each semester. And if there are no other placards up, I will call the question.
There's been a call to question on the funding bill as a whole, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Senator Advet. Yes. Alucard. Yes. Bender. Yes. Blair. Yes. Khan. Yes. Culbertson. Yes. Darlinger. Yes. Fritz. Yes. Green. Yes. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Hanyang.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Class.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Hine.
Yes.
Lippford.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Meredith.
Yes.
Orger.
Yes.
Rice.
Yes.
Rolling.
Yes.
Trader.
Yes.
Searles.
Yes.
Stanley.
Yes.
Samuel.
Yes.
Toinette. Zastro.
Yes.
Did I miss anyone? With a vote of 26-0, this funding request passes.
Thank you.
Moving on to 2019-2-45F, funding the United Arab Emirates Student Association with Senator Zastrow.
The representative for the club wants to go to the podium. And I will motion to accept the amendments by Finance Committee.
There's been a motion to move to approve the amendments proposed by the Finance Committee, and there's been a second. We move into discussion. Senator Zastrow.
So this is just, well, we renamed the MU staff and Navy Tech fee from the Great Hall reservation because they're not reserving the Great Hall. They're paying for the necessary staff. And then also catering, we changed to, so they're trying to essentially make an event larger, and you can speak to the specific event. They're trying to make an event larger, and so we are going off the latest numbers, which is an event where they had 60 people come, funded at $8 a plate, which is standard by PNC, for a total of $480. And I will call the question on the amendment.
There's been a call to question on the amendment, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a placard vote. And there's been a call for unanimous consent. Are there any objections in approving the amendment by the way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the amendment stands approved. Senator Zastrow.
Awesome. Do you just want to talk about the event that you're hosting?
Yes, my name is Abdurrahman. I'm the treasurer of the UAE Student Association, and we make some smaller events in the past, but this time we'll make a larger event for the ISU community to learn more about the UAE's history and culture. And so we plan to make a 20 to 30% representation, and then there'll be a dinner and some activities for the attendees to do. And there'll be some cultural games and Arabic name writing, some booths. So yeah, pretty much it's a cultural event to enforce the diversity in ISU community. Yeah.
Questions for our speaker? There's been a call to question on the bill as a whole, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Senator Advet.
Thank you.
Alucard. Yes. Bender. Yes. Blair.
Yes.
Khan. Yes. Culbertson. Yes. Dollinger. Yes. Fritz. Yes. Green. Yes. Gonzalez. Yes. Hanyang. Yes. Johnson. Yes. Class. Yes. Klein. Yes. Klein. Yes. Lipford. Yes. Ludwig.
Yes.
Meredith. Yes. Orger. Yes. Rice. Yes. Rolling. Yes. Schrader. Yes. Searles. Yes. Stanley. Yes. Samuel. Yes. Zastrow. Yes. With a vote of 26-0, this funding request passes.
Thank you.
Moving on to 2019-2-36F, Men's Ultimate Frisbee Club depth contract with Senator Lifford.
Okay, one note, I'm not sure, like, in the contract, we made one change. Do I need to accept that amendment? It's in the contract itself. So I move to accept that amendment. It's just adding a semester to the debt contract.
There's been a motion to move to amend the depth contract and add a semester.
I didn't, I just changed it myself. I didn't actually track changes. I apologize. I just added one semester.
The fall 2023.
Yep. So it would, the $750, it's technically over $750, but they can use that last semester to pay the additional $218.
So Senator Lifford, is the highlighted one the amendment?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Senator Lifford proposed the amendment. Is there a second? There's been a second. Move into discussion. Senator Lifford.
Call the question.
There's been a call to question on the amendment, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a placard vote. And there's been a call for unanimous consent. Are there any objections in approving the amendment by the way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the amendment stands approved. Senator Lifford.
You can push the lectern now to talk about your debt contract.
Hello. One thing, why does it go from spring 2022 to fall 2023? That's a 1.5 year gap in the contract, or
Fine as Director Mueller.
That's because I don't know how to do math.
Oh, okay, so
Thank
just want to make sure
you.
that's not how it's
Yeah,
gonna work.
no, I
Vice Speaker Schroeder.
I'd like to propose a friendly amendment to change that to the right time.
You can go ahead and explain.
Oh, yeah, so last year we qualified for the national championship tournament. It's the first time in our club's history. It was a really big deal for us, and it was an extremely expensive event, and we weren't really ready for it. And that's kind of why we went negative. And then the student government then took a ton of money from us too, which was pretty unfortunate. And now we're here.
Senator Rowling.
So just to clarify that last bit, just for everybody else, so in Finance Committee, we discussed this. So when things aren't line item transferred over, so we specify in, like we do for other bills, for very specific purposes, what we can fund. And then if they want to use the money in another way, they have the ability to line item transfer it. There wasn't the line item transfer, and because those funds weren't used, they come back to student government. And that's pretty standard issue practice. I yield.
Vice Speaker Schroeder.
Yeah, so you had an expense come up, and then was there money in your account from student government from different things that you assumed you could spend? So I'm just trying to figure out why that much money was spent in debt without having that much money in your account for the trip.
We had around $3,500 in our account before the trip, and that overall the cost was around $6,000, $7,000. So we just kind of paid a lot in. We paid like a couple thousand in too. So.
Okay, so you paid a couple $1,000 over what you had in your account. So, I guess, so if we fund the debt contract, in the future, will you not spend money you don't have?
Yeah, I'll also try to stay on top of line item transfers a little bit better.
Okay, but even if you had a line item transfer, it sounds like you still would have gone in debt.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so that's concerning from just if we give you a debt contract, and then, okay, now your account's zeroed out, and then you go back below, like, now, student government's just gonna eat it, because, if you default. So that's a little concerning. What are your steps to make sure, because, so $750 a semester isn't nothing, obviously, I'm sure as you know, it's quite a bit. So what are your plans? Do you have fundraisers? What do your dues look like? How are you going to ensure that you make sure you're on top of your finances for this and have enough money to actually ensure your club can operate?
Well, since we qualified for the national championship, we actually had a really big influx of new members this year. So we have like over 60 active members that are all paying in. So we're probably going to raise dues a little bit next semester to hopefully compensate for some of the costs of the debt contract, and probably just overall be charging more for events and stuff just to make sure that we don't go under anymore.
And then what other expenses do you have? So the national championship is an expense. So what do you have to pay for tournaments? What does that look like? What are your expenses?
We currently have two teams, an A team and a B team. Both teams go to 3 to 4 tournaments a semester, and each of those needs lodging and the bid fees and the other. That's pretty much it. And then, of course, the vans, which we usually end up taking. Yeah. Student government funds a third of the price of a mile, I believe.
Yeah. And then, yeah. So I guess, so then your plan to increase revenue is just increase dues?
Not just dues. I guess, because dues is what we just call like the general payment into the club, and then like every event you pay for separately. Like because obviously some members can't make it to every tournament, we don't expect them to pay for a tournament they didn't go to. So we'll just increase tournament costs for people that do go to those tournaments.
Okay, so then, okay.
And we are doing fundraising this year. We fundraise basketball games and football games every year, but we're trying to get a couple more this year to hopefully help get us out of the debt a little more.
Okay, so yeah, that sounds good. I guess so please, if we give you this, don't spend money that's not in your account. The debt contract is kind of a second chance for clubs, especially since, I'll probably be voting for this because unless your club can get out of debt, you're not in good standing, so student government can't fund you, so you can't go to any of the other competitions unless you pay 100%. And student government does cover registration costs for competitive trips and travel costs, so that would place another burden on your club. And if you're already $4,700 in debt, I have a hard time seeing how you could ever get out of that hole while doing the other one. So just to keep the club going, I think that this is probably a necessary vote, but I guess please don't, because this is student fee money, so please take care of it, and don't have it just go into another mistake of spending money you don't have. Thank you. I yield.
Senator Zastro.
Finance Director Mueller, would you like to talk a little bit about debt contracts and how they work, just since this is the first one we're seeing?
Yeah. From government, not get funding from governments. There are clubs that were supposed to get money this year, but they are not positive yet, so they can't get the money. We are trying to get debt contracts through this semester so that people can get their money this semester. That's why we had a couple come up already. But the goal, so essentially, if they don't pay back their debt contract, you can see in the contract, we can go into their account and take those funds out ourselves, whatever is in the account. We have that first, we funded them, and then after are currently in the account that we did not fund them. They do have a chance if they miss a payment. It's due at the very last day of class for each semester. If they do miss a payment, they can come back within 2 weeks and say, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, we screwed up. We don't have the money, but we'll have it by this date. And Finance Committee can approve that and give them an extension on that payment. But we have not had to go into an account in a couple years, so hopefully that doesn't happen.
Awesome, thank you. And then for the representative of the organization, I'm looking at the budget that you guys have proposed for this year. I'm seeing a line item called fundraising concessions, and that's expected to bring in $3,500. Could you speak to what that is?
So yeah, like I said, we fundraise lots of basketball and football games, and that's probably where all that will come from.
Cool, thank you. And then fundraising alumni. That's just asking alumni of the program for money. Cool.
That one's always kind of unexpected, but we usually get some donations every year.
Awesome. And then, oh, never mind. All right, thank you. I yield.
Senator Klein.
Hey, first of all, congratulations on qualifying. That must have been pretty exciting.
It was.
I do have a couple quick questions, though. How long in between qualifying and needing to pay? Like, what was the time window between learning that you had to pay this amount of money and then actually paying that amount of money?
About 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Because we really didn't expect to make the tournament. We beat the #1 contending team in the nation at the regional qualifier, and it was a pretty exciting moment for us, obviously.
Absolutely, cool. Are you guys, I mean, obviously it's hard to project, but are you guys thinking that you might qualify again this year?
Obviously, that's our goal. But we as a club know that we graduated some of our best members and best players, and we know that it will be a battle, but we are trying, and we will hope to get there. But I would probably say most likely not going to get there.
Understood. Obviously, 3 weeks isn't a lot of time. Did you guys look at any corporate sponsors for taking your club to this tournament?
No, not really. No, I don't think we could find many corporate people looking to sponsor a club Frisbee team on that short of notice.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I yield.
Senator Rowling.
Hi, so I'd like to address something that Senator Zastro brought up about the Levy fundraising, I apologize, the basketball and football fundraising item. I'm assuming that's through Levy restaurants.
Yes.
Has your club done this in the past?
Yes, we've done it for the past couple of years.
Okay, and you have made the $3,500?
Yes, we expect to fully make that, probably maybe even more.
Okay, so I'm very familiar with that fundraising, as I am associated with Levy through other things that I work in. So there is a number of students that you have to have present to work the concession stands, whether that's at the football games or whether that's at basketball. Do you expect that you'll be able to maintain that to get that bare minimum of fundraising?
Yes, I believe we can. We have, like I said, we have a lot of new members this year, and a lot of people like not paying their own money for terms and stuff. And fundraising is a great way for them to make their own money, or we give them credit, as we say in the club. So if they go to fundraising, they aren't expected to pay for tournaments and whatnot.
Okay, and you worked both basketball and football in order
Yes,
to
we
make
do.
that $3,500 total before?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I yield.
Further questions? For the motion. There's been a call to question on the DEP contract, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we move into a roll call vote. Senator Vet.
Yes.
Senator Alucard.
Yes.
Bender. Blair.
Yes.
Khan.
Yes.
Colson.
Yes.
Dollinger. Fritz.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Liddick. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Anya.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
Blank.
Yes.
Pine.
Yes.
Lifford.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Meredith.
Yes.
Order.
Yes.
Wright. Rowland.
No.
Schrader.
Yes.
Searle.
Yes.
Stanley.
Yes.
Samuel.
Yes.
Zastro.
Yes.
Class.
No.
Rice.
Yes.
With a vote of 24 to 2 to 0, this DEP contract passes. Moving on to 2019-2-40F, funding because I said I would, with Vice Chair Lifford.
Okay, I believe, first, accept the amendments from Finance Committee. I move to do that.
There's been a motion to move to adopt Finance Committee amendments proposed by the Finance Committee, and there's been a second. We move into discussion. Senator Lifford.
Call a question.
Second.
There's been a call to question on the amendments as a whole, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a placard vote, and there's been a call for unanimous consent. Are there any objections in approving the amendment by the way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the amendment stands approved. Senator Lifford.
Just want to point out that this is through the Excellent account, so be sure to note that, and I'll leave the floor to our organization.
Hi, my name's Kate Moody. I'm one of the executive directors for Greek Week. Hi, my name is Eliza Schumer, and I'm the director of engagement for Greek Week.
And then my name is Zach Woodbeck. I am the other executive director for Greek Week. So I'm not sure how much you all have heard about this yet during the first read, but essentially, Because I Said I Would is a foundation that was founded by Alex Sheen. So Alex Sheen Alex Sheen lost his father a few years ago to a deadly illness. And Alex had the opportunity to give his father's eulogy at his funeral. And Alex wrote a poem, and it was called Because I Said I Would. So Alex essentially took business cards, whited them out, and at the bottom wrote the title Because I Said I Would. And the essence of the card is you make a promise to somebody, you write the promise on the card, and you give the promise to them. And then once you keep your promise, you get the card back. So it's an accountability factor. That's what Alex Sheen's father stood for. And that's why he believes so much in his foundation and the purpose that he serves. So we represent Greek Week. And Greek Week is a week in the spring that has traditionally been exclusive to members of the sorority and fraternity community. We do have an educational component of Greek Week that aligns with the values of our community. But this educational component has always been exclusive to our members, like I said. This year, as one of our values is friendship, we do not believe that having only exclusive events to our community necessarily embodies the value of friendship as well as we possibly could have. So we formulated this idea to bring Alex Sheen to campus and to open it up to all students and make it more than just a lecture, make it more of an engaging event, and make it more of a friendship-building event than what Greek Week traditionally would see. So we asked the lectures committee for funding. They approved $13,000 for the honorarium to get Alex here at least. And then we also asked the event funding board for money as well. I will not speak on behalf of them, but we need, it says up there, we need $35,000 to bring Alex to campus, and we need it in Hilton Coliseum. The reason being that it can't be in CY is because we have more than 4,500 members in our community, and we will fill CY with our community. And if it's truly open to the public, and we're truly engaging all students and all members of our community, we need a bigger venue, and Hilton is our best bet because we couldn't think of anything else nearby that would be accessible to students. So you can throw questions at us. We talked to the finance committee yesterday about If this meets the Excellence Fund criteria, I'm sure President Graber can talk about that too. But we want this to be a partnership. We don't want this to be, hey, this is Greek Week event, but it's open to the public, so therefore it's available for funding. We want this to be a partnership. We want this to be student government collaborates with the sorority and fraternity community, along with lectures and the event funding board to make something cool. So,
President Graber.
Yeah, because this comes from the Excellence Fund criteria, I sent the criteria back out to all of you, so you have that in front of you, just as a FYI.
Senator Class.
So I don't know if you guys read finance committee minutes because they're fun. So one thing that I talked about yesterday in the finance committee, and if it met criteria, and I did vote no to sending it favorably, just to lay it all out there, is that we're making an event that has happened before larger. In my reading of the criteria, which I have in front of me that says fund from this account must not be a recurring event or ask. This is an event that has happened before. They have not come through Excellence Fund before, so it's not another ask, but it is a recurring event. We're just making it larger. That was my motivation for voting no for sending it favorably. And now a question. So you guys talked about how you have 4,500 members. And you said you would fill CY. Is there a way that you can require attendance so that you have to fill CY? Or like when you have events like this, do you usually make it a requirement, or do you usually fill CY Stevens? If you can speak to that.
yeah, so Greek Week does not require attendance at any events. The way we motivate our members to attend events is through Greek Week points. So we have a point system. It's similar-ish to homecoming for our community, into which the most points for the team wins, essentially. So that's how we prioritize events, is through points, but no, it's not mandatory. For events that are similar in nature to this, we do usually fill CY.
Okay, perfect. I yield for now.
Senator Hanyo.
Just speaker?
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
I had a few questions. So first of all, you touched on the point system a little bit. How would you look to gain non-Greek members if there aren't points associated with them?
So I can talk to this. So we really want to partner with ISU Lectures and make this, like we said before, not a Greek Week event, but because I said I would. So we want to hit that marketing hard and work with ISU Lectures and with student government to really promote that, because we have resources to market within our own community, but we're not as familiar with marketing to the whole university. So we'd really want kind of your assistance to do that. And we've also brainstormed a couple things to do with inside of the community. So making sure that we're also advocating for the Ames community and the local Story County community.
Okay, yeah. And then a little bit also on what Senator Klass was talking about. I know that in the bill it says that it would be every year that you would like to do this event, especially if it's successful. If this Speaker Alex Sheen was to come back to Ames, would you look to find funding from student government via the Excellence Fund again, or would you try to find funding elsewhere?
I don't think we'd be eligible through the Excellence Fund if we were to bring him again, because that would be a recurring ask. I think if he were to come back to campus, I don't think it would be relatively soon, at least within our organization, because we would have heard from him recently. Potentially the future could do that, but I don't foresee our organizations pushing for this in the near future.
Okay, so then in the future, would you plan on having a similar educational event, just titled differently?
Yes, so every year we have an educational component to Greek Week. This year we're just really widening the scope and kind of the purpose. So we've never done something to this scale, and we've never done something with the entire community. I can't really speak for what Greek Week Central will do next year, but I'm sure that if this event goes off successfully and is a great partnership, we would love to continue doing something like this, but we probably would not pursue funding through the Excellence Fund.
All right, and then just one more thing. You did mention partnering with both student government lectures, but are there any other departments at Iowa State that you're looking to partner with to promote this event?
To be honest, I think we'll partner with anybody. I'm kind of planning to head most of this. It's kind of in my role. So hitting all the departments, making sure that we're hitting social media throughout, and making sure that residence halls know people in the community are going to know. So just kind of anybody in general that would want to come, we would of course want them to be there.
All right. Thank you. I yield for now.
Senator Meredith.
Okay, so we established that points are associated with attending events. Are you going to make this something that the fraternity and sorority pairings will get points for?
Yes.
What will the points be, and what is the percentage of members that have to attend to get the points?
Goodness.
Do you know?
We have not set the rule book.
Okay.
And the kind of spoke to it, but the method that we use for points is we see the more points that Greek Week Central provides to a specific activity, the more priority it has for us. So community service during Greek Week has the highest priority and therefore gets more points. I'm not entirely sure how many points we'll give towards it.
Okay.
It'll be probably higher on the priority lists, especially as this develops. We'll see through the life of this project. But there will be points awarded to some extent, and we do not know if it'll be percentage based or not.
Okay. I guess my next question is, sometimes, although community service may be like high on Greek Week Central's priority list, that not all chapters participate in the community service events, / we do polar bear plunge as well. So I'm just a little nervous about attendance, because typically the speakers are attached to the awards ceremony. So people are kind of, I don't want to say forced, but there's also another incentive of going. So I'm just a little nervous on attendance.
Yeah, so we do recognize that students do have different priorities. So not all students in our community are going to prioritize community service, and we acknowledge that that's okay. This also won't be attached to the awards ceremony, because that would make it more of a Greek Week event, and that's not what we're here to do. This is tentatively for the Tuesday. That's what we spoke to Alex about. We do not know if he's still available for that specific day. We know he's available for the week. So it won't be a specific awards ceremony. Usually to the educational component, we get 2,500 to 3,000 students in attendance. So if it's a more high profile keynote speaker, if it's more of an event, it's more engaging and it's engaging the entire community, we're pretty confident that we can get at least CY worth.
Okay, and then how do you plan on like promoting this across the campus? I know you said something with lectures, but do you have other plans associated?
Yeah, so we can do what we're good at and what we normally do, which is social media and involving our community. That's where we need help, and that's what we see is we have a weakness. And that's why we want to partner with lectures and student government. And we'd also like to partner with college councils. And we'd also like to partner with any other organizations that would work. We don't necessarily need their money. We just want them to see the vision of this project like we do. So involving others and enlisting them in the process, if they want a seat at the table, they can get a seat at the table, because this is not going to be a Greek Week owned event. But that's why we come to you. We don't just want your $5,000, like we want your knowledge and we want your education, and we want your engagement of the community. If President Graber can get hundreds and thousands of students to show up to listen to him speak, I'm pretty sure his voice can get students to listen to a $15,000 speaker as well.
Cool. Those are all the questions I had. Sounds like a good idea. I yield.
Senator Rowling.
So I have an entirely different concern with this bill. The main being that we already funded it through lectures. So student government funds lectures. So all the funds that that lectures delves out, that comes from us. So essentially what's happened already is they've received $13,000 through lectures. So that, if we were to fund this bill on top, that brings it to $18,000 that came through student government in total. So we're not looking at funding them $5,000. We've already funded them through lectures, which is kind of our hand of funding lectures. So bringing this back into the excellence account, I feel like we're on, for lack of better term, almost double dipping, as we have already given them funds. And I'd like to discuss this a lot more because I think that's an important thing to consider. I yield.
Senator Ludwig. Senator Stanley.
Yeah, so I think that there's a sufficient level of innovation in this request as compared to previous requests, that it satisfies the must not be a reoccurring request criterion. Now, like Senator Rowling said, the question is whether or not the double dipping argument precludes them from receiving funding. One of the other stipulations in the Excellence Fund bill that we passed was that all requests from the Excellence Fund be ineligible for funding from any other account. So the question is, should that stipulation also apply to other mechanisms of funding that we indirectly bankroll, so to speak? I have not actually formulated an opinion on this yet. I just realized it before I was given the floor, so I will consider it a little bit more and take the floor again when I have made up my mind. I yield.
Vice Speaker Schrader.
Sorry, what was the speaker last year? Do you remember?
Yeah, his name was James Robalata.
Okay.
It was less of a keynote and more of a like pairing with our awards ceremony. He was essentially just like the opening act. But yeah, he was speaking. His name's James Robalata. He primarily speaks to fraternity men, but also speaks to sorority women as well.
And what was the message of that?
James Robalata speaks to imperfection, leading imperfectly. He actually has a book about it. But he talks about it through a fraternity scope.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
It's tough. The double dipping argument is certainly valid. Through the student government already funds lectures, so should we fund additional parts of lectures? I suppose the argument could be yes, in that like if things are that important, it might be worth funding beyond what lectures is. Then I have another question of, is lectures eligible to fund building rentals? Senator Logue, do you know if lectures can fund building rentals, or if they just fund the speakers?
We do fund building rentals on
So,
occasion.
do you know why this building rental wasn't funded?
Yeah, and I was at the meeting when this was discussed. It was primarily because both faculty and student members expressed a lot of concern about attendance to this event. We were worried both about them being able to actually market this out to non-Greek students and just generally to fill the stadium. Lectures with its best speakers, has never gone out of CY Stevens. We've never rented Hilton, and we've maxed out CY Stevens, but only by maybe a couple hundred.
So, how much is the CY Stevens rental?
It's about 7,000, so it's about anywhere from I think, $11,000 to $13,000 difference.
Okay.
Depending on where the actual number comes in for Hilton.
I'll just ask Senator Rowling, since you're, why was the $5,000 number chosen in Finance Committee? Since you were there, sorry. That's someone else.
So that was
Finance
essentially what was left after other funding resources had been taken into account.
Okay, so they got funding from, was that event funding board for the other 15 grand? Sorry, maybe I'll ask the group. So what is the 15,000 that's being paid for by the organization, where is that coming from?
So the event funding board does not yet get back to us.
Okay.
And the max you can request from them is 12. Greek Week as an organization can commit 5 right now.
Okay. Sorry, Finance Director Mueller, do you have a comment on why the $5,000 number was chosen for that part of the Hilton rental?
Why we chose Hilton for our part? or
Why
what?
$5,000?
Because that's what they had left for 35,000.
Okay.
Because if we were assuming the full amount if we were assuming the full 12 that they asked from Event Funding Board, that leaves them with $5,000 that they needed. So.
Okay. And then to the group, if you were not able to get the full amount from Event Funding Board, would you be forced to move back into CY Stevens from a cost perspective?
Yeah, we would.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess I don't really know what to do then, because maybe we should fund part of being in CY Stevens, but if it's in CY Stevens, then we should probably fund less. So I guess I'm just a little conflicted on what we should do for a building rental, and then if we should do anything at all with the lectures, choosing not to fund it, and lectures has the ability to fund that. So I guess I'm just pretty conflicted. Thank you for everyone, all like 6 people I asked questions to, for that.
Senator Ludwig.
Yeah, so I share some of these concerns, some of the ones that have been talked about before. I've had conversations with Treasurer Doherty and Senator Heasley, who both weren't able to be here tonight. We are all kind of concerned about the double dipping per se, just because all of lecture's budget comes from student government. So there is no kind of alternative funding source, so that is essentially just another funding arm of ourselves, and so it just does really feel like a lot of double dipping. And then, as I stated already, there's kind of a lot of concerns on lecture about the viability of Hilton Coliseum, and I think it's a good event, but I just don't know that it could fill an additional, I think, roughly 4,000 seats. And that's where some of our attendance concerns come in. Like I said earlier, we've never had to rent out Hilton before for an event like this, and there's a lot of worries, particularly on lectures, about expanding this to non-Greek students. I know the Greek Week has talked about working with lecturers and working with student government, and I'm sure both would be more than happy, but I think especially just on a first-year basis where there isn't a tradition, per se, of non-Greek students attending this event, it might be a little awkward and not make students might still not feel totally welcome, I guess, if that makes sense. And so there's some concerns about that. But lastly, my largest concerns actually lie with pulling from the Excellence Fund account. 11.7.17.1 lays out a broader purpose for the account. And it states that funding for orgs that, basically the account is, purpose is for orgs that, quote, aren't able to easily receive funding through an alternative funding mechanism, student government, or otherwise. That is the broad mission statement of the Excellence Fund. I think that it's clear that they have other funding sources. I know it might be difficult to hit the amount that they're trying to hit, but I think it's clear that they have somewhat easy access to other funding mechanisms. And then 11.7.17.1.1.3 states that it must have an impact on a broad segment of the campus, and that's where some concerns about getting outside of the Greek community come in. And then just as we've discussed multiple times before, I do think this is a reoccurring ask, or not reoccurring ask, but reoccurring event. The reading of the rule set forth by President Graber says reoccurring event or ask. And although this event has taken some changes and been expanded, I still think this falls under one of the rules that basically excludes this event. And so between concerns from lecturers and attendance, and just the fact that I don't think it fits the rules that we've set up, I don't think that we are allowed via our rules to actually fund this. So I will be, yes, that's all my thoughts, I guess. Yes.
So if you read the Finance Committee minutes, there was I voted yes, by the way, to send this to Senate favorably, as did every member of the group except for Treasurer Dowry and Senator Klass. And the reason that I did that is because I believe that this event was different enough from its previous ones to where this is not a recurring event. I do see it as fundamentally different in size and in scope. And the reason that I reached that conclusion was because I thought that that was the only criteria of the Excellence Fund where there was a potential that this event could be violating a criteria. The objection brought by Senator Stanley, I think, is very strong. And if I was considering that yesterday, I would not have voted to send this to Senate favorably. I think that drawing from the student activity fee makes it eligible for funding through another account, which would then violate a criteria of the Excellence Fund. I think that this is a great event. I think that this is something that we would like to fund, but I don't think that the money can come from this account. I'm sorry. And I hope that lecturers, if you go back to them, is more sympathetic to your cause since you've sought other funding sources. But yeah, I would not have voted yes to send this to Senate favorably if I was thinking that the lecturers' pool comes from the same fee as the Excellence Fund does. So I yield.
Senator Fritz.
Hi, so I'm just going to address a few points that have been made tonight. First, I think this is very noteworthy that this is being made public. I think this has the potential to be very beneficial to both the Ames community and the student population here at Iowa State. So one argument that was made was that this would be just in a larger event from previous years, and I would say that this is not like a reoccurring event just because the entire scope is changed. The audience and both the purpose of the event are completely different. I was able to attend last year, and the speaker was highly related to that speaker's fraternity experience and how you can apply that to your own experience. And so this scope is more of like a motivational speaker and doesn't relate to that as much as the other one did last year. So I would say just entirely the audience, the purpose of this event is different. And further, I think this is something that people will highly want to go to, students, community members. I've mentioned this bill in passing to two people, both of whom have seen the speaker before, and they said that it was life-changing. Like, it literally changed their perspective on life, and I think that that's something that students will not have to be persuaded into going to or coerced into going to. They're going to want to go to this. And another point brought up was that lectures has never filled Hilton before, some attendance concerns. I don't know, I think we should challenge the process. Just because it's never been done before doesn't mean it can't be done now. And so I think that this is why I will be voting yes. I feel very strongly about this. I think this has the potential to be a very great event for both Iowa State students and the Ames community. I yield.
Senator Stanley.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that I would speak again once I've made up my mind, and I think I have. As we have heard from Senator Ludwig, Lectures receives all of their funding from student government. The website of the lecture series literally describes themselves as an arm of student government. It actually says verbatim, the Committee on Lectures is the funding arm of the student government for speakers and events. I think that that makes it very clear under the criteria of the Excellence Fund that we approved that we cannot fund this from this account because that it is ineligible, or it is not ineligible for funding from another account, if that made sense. So I will have to vote no on this because I think a yes vote would flout the rules that we approved earlier in the semester. With that, I'll yield.
Senator Gonzalez.
Hi, so I just have two questions. One for Madison. For the Excellence Fund, I'm looking at the Mueller report. From what account would it come from?
It would be from the Excellence account. I do not put that total. That's not in the bylaws that I have to report that every week. We haven't used any from it this year. Let me tell you super quickly what I have in that account. I want to say there's 50,000-ish. I think it's a little over 50,000. I don't.
Okay.
Let me double check, but
Okay.
I'll get back.
Yeah, no problem. And then, then in the meantime, so then I have another question for you guys. If this bill fails, what is your alternative plan? Like, are you guys going to look to get the money elsewhere? Are you guys going to come up with like a new location, or like what's plan B?
The plan B is CY. Reason being is because we have to book Alex like now, and we have to get the logistics of the event rolling because we also have to plan the remainder of the week as well and make sure that that's as successful as possible. So plan B would be CY. I mean, we'd be open to other suggestions if you all do have some that are feasible. But yeah, we got logistical reasonings we got to get moving.
Do you have the amount or no? No? Okay, that's fine. All right, then I'll yield.
Senator Searles.
Okay, this is super specific semantics that I'm asking for clarification, and I'll specify the question afterwards. So, us putting aside all of the concerns about the double dipping of the funding, since we've clarified that lectures is the funding arm of student government. I'm curious if there is a specification within any sort of bylaws, because I don't know them as well, that clarifies that a recurring ask is specific to events that have already occurred, if it's an annual thing, or if we've already funded that and then they then ask for more money, is that still a recurring ask if it's already been funded? Finance Director Mueller, do you have a comment on that?
There's nowhere that like specifies that, but I do just want to put it forward that would you be willing to fund 18,000 if it wasn't, if Lecture Zero funded them? Like, would you be willing, if Lecture said no, to fund the full 18,000 instead of 13,000? Just
Jermaine.
think about that. I don't think it's germane. I think it very much relates.
But Senator Charles, it's your turn.
Yeah. So since it doesn't specify whether it's putting aside, just really quickly, the reason I said germane is because I want to get back to the question. I do think that was a valid point, Finance Director Mueller. Since it doesn't specify that it has to be a completed event, and we technically have already funded them, the way I'm viewing this as a recurring ask. That might be incorrect, but since we haven't fully elaborated on what a recurring event or recurring ask means, that's how I'm viewing it, now that we've clarified that. I understand that wasn't clear before, so that could be confusing. And then I did want to ask the group, okay, so you said you're still waiting on the 12,000 potentially, hopefully. So this 5,000 was accounting for full funding in that. What happens if we fund, but then you don't get the 12,000 from them? Was that clarified, I believe?
No, you want me to clarify that? Is what
Yes,
you're saying?
please, sorry. Yeah.
If we don't get the 12 grand and you all do 5, that'd mean we're at what, 18, 23? I would probably still have to go to CY, I'm assuming. Because we wouldn't be able to fund Hilton unless we found another 7 grand somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, we'd go to Plan B at that point. Is that a sufficient answer?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
just
I
making
was
sure.
just clarifying for that.
Yeah, that'd be yeah.
Awesome. I yield.
Senator Alucard.
I have a question for you guys. So I believe the bill, you're trying to fund it for the date of March 31st. That's that Tuesday you're planning on. What time or how long would this be going on, just as a point of clarification?
It would probably be in the evening, like 7-ish is what we were thinking, and then an hour to 2 hours long.
Okay. So I definitely have concerns with this coming from the Excellence Fund mainly. Even if we don't consider a recurring ask, I do think that having funding from this is fishy because we have said that it can't be eligible from other funding sources. But I do want to clarify that talking about lectures like we just control what they do also seems sort of micromanaging on our aspect. Like we make a decision to fund lectures, to my knowledge, and Senator Ludwig, you can correct me if I'm wrong because you know more about it than I do, but like we fund them knowing that they're going to get different lectures, and so we shouldn't be like, oh, well, we don't like how you're doing it over there. So I don't really understand us describing us as being in charge of lectures when lectures does operate on their own basis, correct? Senator Ludwig?
We have, I believe, slots for 10 students on lectures. We generally have at least half or more filled, but right now we have 5 of those slots filled. But it is largely student driven. They really like to have student voices on there. We make a lot of the decisions. In fact, motions cannot be made without a student being one of the people making the motion or seconding the motion. So it's very student driven. There's just a professional director to who can work to reach out to different speakers and negotiate lower prices and stuff like that.
Sure. So I think that us describing student lectures as, even if they say that they are an arm of our funding, like we could say that about anything we fund. So March 31st is also during the school year. I know that the graduate and professional students have a really difficult schedule, and that would be very challenging for us to go to. So I will not be supporting this bill, not only because I will not have access to it, but I don't think that it's eligible based off of the excellence criteria. I yield.
Senator Klass.
So just kind of to speak on what Senator Alucard just talked about, we have a contract with Committee on Lectures through student government. It was ratified. I don't know when it was ratified, but it takes effect from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2021 for $165,000 a year. That comes from student fee money that goes then to lectures. So lectures already funded the $13,000 honorarium, and then if we funded $5,000 on top of that from Excellence Fund, that's $18,000 of student fee money for one event is kind of what I'm going for. And also, like, it's already a lot of money from student fee money because it's already $13,000. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So I'm not in favor of it, but I do think it's a great event. Do want to put that out there. I think it's a great event, just think money-wise. Yeah, sorry.
Deal. There's 10 minutes left on the bill. Senator Green.
So I loved the point that Senator Fritz pointed out about how last year someone said that the event changed their life. Can you say how it affected you specifically going to it? And then also, I'm sure you already said, but what was the turnout from last year's event?
So a few of us within leadership went to a conference outside of Iowa State to hear him talk. And the impact that I saw directly back in our office is we put up a board that said, "Because I said I would." And then the people who were in and around the office would make promises to each other, whether that be personal or professional, and they would hang them on that board for everyone to see. And it really was something that was motivating to me when I would walk in every day and I would get to see kind of what was going on. And I'd say, oh, look at all of my peers holding promises and holding each other accountable. So I thought that was really an impressive showcase of what this event has done. It was also just really touching, him speaking. If you haven't heard him before, I would Google him. His message is really, really cool. And then, what was your other question? I'm sorry.
The turnout from last year.
So turnout from when James Rebelata spoke was we filled Hilton Coliseum, CY, darn it, CY almost entirely. I think there's always the last seat on the end that's one person free, but other than that, it was pretty packed.
Okay, great. I have to agree with all the conversation that's happening, that it seems like, you know, we fund the lectures. We don't tell them exactly what to do or how to spend their money, but we are basically funding it twice. So I yield.
Senator Vett.
Hello. So I'll keep this short. We're talking a lot about whether or not this is a good event. Yes, it is. I'm on the lectures committee too. I like this as well. We funded it in spite of concerns we had. However, I think it's really important for us to move the direction of this discussion to whether or not we can actually fund this, which there's a lot of good reasons to, like I said, I like your event, but there's a lot of good reasons for us to say, for us to determine that we really cannot fund this. There's the ineligibility problem that comes from the request being eligible for funding through other accounts. There's the recurring issue brought up by Senator Searles. It's a little narrower than the ineligibility issue, but it's still a very valid concern. And I would really encourage all of you to talk more about that part of the problem than focus on whether or not this is a good event, which I think we all at this point. That's really irrelevant if we can't fund this. That's all I have to say. I yield.
Senator Samuel, do you still wish to speak? Senator Blair. Senator Zastro. Senator Hanyan.
All right. I do want to echo everything that's been said about the double funding, recurring ask. I think that's a pretty big hurdle to approach. Regarding how you would move forward with lectures and reaching out to other groups for funding after this, just a suggestion. One thing that I did notice about this bill is that Greek Week Central works with, and I don't know this, anybody from the sorority and fraternity community, please correct me if I'm wrong, works with both the Interfraternity Council and Collegiate Panhellenic Council. Is there involvement from the Multicultural Greek Council and the National Panhellenic Council as well.
Yes, we actually just talking about that back here. I don't think as a guest of this body I can motion, but that is actually inappropriate in the bill. It is a collaboration between all four, the Fraternity, Collegiate Panhellenic, Multicultural, and National Panhellenic Council. I don't know who put the literature into the bill, but yes, it is a collaboration between all four.
Someone want to say that slowly?
Multicultural Greek Council and National Panhellenic Council. Panhellenic being a dash between Pan and Hellenic. Awesome.
And then the multicultural should be uppercase. That's very nitpicky, but OCD. Sorry, folks. Okay, I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you.
I would just say that with everything that's been said, if you do want to fill the seats and go back to lectures and say, hey, we really want to be in Hilton Coliseum because we think it's going to be something that so many people are going to go to, it's going to change so many lives. I would say that the biggest hurdle there is getting over this, getting over the kind of idea from people who may have never heard of Alex Sheen, may have never heard about these things and just see it as a lecture event, seeing it as something that the whole community can get behind because, looking at it first, it seems like a Greek week only event, and so that will be a bit of an issue. I will say that the double funding for me was the biggest concern when it came up, and so I would say go back to lectures definitely and talk to them about that, and that's all I have, so I yield.
There's been a call to question on the bill as a whole, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into roll call vote. Senator Beck. No. Senator Oliver. No. Senator Blair. Yes. No. Fulton. No. Dollinger. No. Fritz. Yes. Green. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Anya. No. Johnson.
No.
Klass. Klein. Klein. Lippert. Ludwig. Meredith. Orger. Rice. Rolling. Schrader. Cyril. Stanley. Samuel. Zastro. Klein. Klein. With a vote of 5 to 21 to 0, this funding request fails. Moving on to special internal matters. Within internal matters special orders 2019-2-47 SG, seating a Senator Student Initiatives Committee with Senator Rowling.
So we're going to go ahead and invite Senator Green up to speak and tell us a little bit why she wants to be on the committee. We did just recently have one Senate seat open for SI, and this will round us up to the full 7 seats filled. So I'll go ahead and I'll yield my time to her.
Hi, everybody. Lydia Green, she, her, hers, LAS Senator. You probably all know who I am. So I want to join this committee, actually, well, one, because I'm a student and I have initiatives, but I sat in on this committee like 2 weeks ago, I think, and the guest speaker was Brad from the center, and that actually kind of resonated with me because one of the projects I had originally wanted to start working on when I became a senator was getting more gender-inclusive restrooms, and he spoke directly to that, so I was like, this must be a sign. So that's kind of why I want to join.
Call to question.
There's been a call to question on the bill as a whole, and there's been a second, and there is an objection to you to withdraw. No. Since you don't withdraw, we move into a discussion. A discussion of why we should vote
Senator Green is qualified. We have an important bill next at some point, so let's get on with it.
Senator Stanley withdrew his withdraw. Do you withdraw? All right, since both of the senators withdrew, we directly move into a vote of the bill as a whole. And there's been a call for unanimous consent. Are there any objections in approving the nominee by the way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, congratulations. Moving on to 2019 General Orders 2019-2-46 SR, censuring the Department of Residence, with Senator Searles.
Okay, so we heard this all last week. Move to accept student initiatives amendments.
There's been a motion to move to adopt the amendments proposed by the Student Initiatives Committee, and there's been a second. We move into discussion. Senator Searles.
I would actually like to discuss some of the amendments.
Go ahead.
This is the appropriate time to do that, right?
Yes.
Since we didn't put line numbers on it, it is I believe it's the third to last whereas clause on that first page there, which initially read, quote, "One such instance was the failure to publicly or privately address the recent racist vandalism in Joffrey Hall in a reasonably timely manner." That was changed, or proposed to be changed, to, quote, "One such instance was a failure to publicly communicate a plan of action to address," sorry, it's really far away, "the recent racist vandalism in Joffrey Hall in a reasonably timely manner." The reason that this was made was we felt that the issue that we had and the issue that was publicized was not necessarily the addressing, it was the communication of the addressing. The post was made in response to the communication, and in conversations with Dr. Anglin, Pete, he doesn't like when I call him Dr. Anglin, and others, Dr. Hurt as well today, there was some concern over that, and I do agree with that. The emphasis was put on the communication, so that's what this was trying to specify. I do think there should be some conversation about that, because within FERPA confines, you can't publicly talk about a lot of the cases, so that I think this whereas clause now kind of also negates what FERPA allows for. So I'm gonna just open the floor for conversation there and yield.
Senator Hanyang.
Senator Searles, in your conversations today, did you have any examples about what this communication would look like if it was public?
Not exactly, and that's where we get into the problem of, is the communication public or is the communication to the impacted party? Because later on we address impacted party. So if we're talking about communication in this line, maybe it should say communicate a plan of action to impacted parties, or communicate acknowledgement of an issue to impacted parties. I think it's really specific. One idea that was thrown out to address that was removing this whereas clause. A lot of people were against that because we felt that we had to tie it to current events as well. As I can't remember who said it, this was the spark that lit the fire. So leaving that in there.
All right, I'll yield for now.
Yes.
So right now we're discussing
The
issues.
The amendments.
Yes. So if we were to say we don't want this amendment, that would be an amendment on the amendment, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, I yield.
Senator Searles.
Okay, just call the question then?
There's been a call to question on the amendments as a whole, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? There. Both of the amendments. All of them. Yes. It's right up there. Good. All right. Since we move into voting on the amendment, are there any objections to call to question on the amendment as a whole? Seeing none, we'll move into a placard vote. And there's been a call for unanimous consent. Are there any objections in approving the amendments by the way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the amendment stands approved. Senator Searles.
I know we just voted on it. The other amendment was adding administrative response to one of the resolve clauses. Before it just said response, and that got into semantics of, is it community advisors that are going to respond? Is it going to be a friend who's going to, so adding an administrative response from full-time professional staff was that other amendment in there. And there were some typos clarified
Senator
as well.
Searles, would you be able to clarify what line was that?
Yeah.
amendment?
Oh, there's line numbers. Line 75. Sorry. So
Just for
before
reference for everyone.
Yeah, sorry about that. It said 48-hour response or acknowledgement time. Now it says 48-hour administrative response or acknowledgement time. I yield.
Deal. Senator Blair.
Hi, I was trying to read as fast as I could, but I think we maybe already accepted it. But I feel like the parties that are receiving these hateful incidents should have the choice of whether they want it to be publicly communicated. Shouldn't they have the option to say, no, I want to keep this like within their own? It's right, like forces it to be public, and if perhaps I was the victim of some hate crime or whatever, perhaps I'd want it to stay private. Yeah.
Is that a question?
I'm just asking, I know we changed it, and I feel like there maybe should be some language where somebody is able to make it private or keep it private if they would prefer that.
Do you have, can anyone address
I
that?
don't know what's happening.
Senator Ludwig, go ahead.
Yeah, so with that particular line, that is a whereas clause, and so that was kind of a little bit tailored to that specific event, because that was a lot of the concern that kind of arose around it, was that there wasn't kind of a public acknowledgement. That's what Liliana was upset about, and so that specific line is referencing that event. The resolved clauses down below have statements about how we would like to proceed forward, and so those are the statements of intent that we have basically in terms of policy recommendations. I yield.
It's Senator Blair's time.
Okay, thank you.
To yield. Senator Han-Young.
Senator Blair, just to kind of clarify on the resolve clauses on how we could address it publicly. I know that the ones that we have on, I think it's the resolve clause that says that all impacted parties be kept up to date. That's more the private communication. As far as public ones, we did have a conversation on there needs to be statements saying that people are working on it without including details. So that was something we did. I don't exactly, Senator Searles, do you have a line for that or anything to add to that?
Yeah, it just comes into the 48-hour administrative response or acknowledgement time. It doesn't specify public or private. And in that, we did provide an example of that to Dr. Englund, Pete, of one of their responses used in previous years that was sent to the CA staff. So that is a semi-public, semi-private response. So it's up to, we're trying to leave it as open so that departments can mold this response as necessary to their use.
All right. Just something to think about is that one of the major things that was brought up during the Geoffrey Hall case was the fact that this was talked about, but it seemed like there was a lot of the issue wasn't really brought to the forefront of students, who especially the affected students. So I think having that kind of general 48-hour response that's listed is really good, but maybe also if anybody would be interested, in putting out an amendment that says public or private, that'd be something. I like it the way it is currently, but if anybody has any further input on it, that'd be good. I yield.
Vice Speaker Schrader.
Yeah, first, so the resolved clause, like when we have policy recommendations, says 40-hour response time to impacted parties. So I think that might get a little bit there, so the wording we have in the bill. President Graber, what do you got?
Yeah, I would like to talk about Senator Searles' point that he made originally and then decided to not go with that. When you suggested an amendment, but then you didn't make one, I would be in favor of that amendment. I know I can't vote. I would be in favor of that. I don't understand why we have publicly or privately in there. You can just say the failure to communicate effectively, to communicate to the parties impacted of the recent racist vandalism in Joffrey Hall within an effective time period. I'm just curious what the thought was on that.
Senator Searles, would you like to respond?
Yes, and I think I'm going to take a moment because I think there might be two different conversations going on right now. There is the whereas clause that addresses Joffrey, and that talks about a public response. There is a resolved clause that talks about a 48-hour response. Not public, not private, just response. So the whereas clause states public. We can amend that as I initially discussed. The resolved clause just states response or acknowledgement. So we're not forcing one way or the other. It initially said privately or publicly in the Joffrey case. We took out privately because none of the authors, including myself, of this legislation was a part of that case. We can't say that there was no private response. That's why privately was taken out. Publicly was left in there because that's kind of what, as Senator Edvait had mentioned, the spark that started the fire. We left it in there because we felt that the response wasn't there until there was negative press, until Liliana made a post, until the Des Moines Register did an article on it. So that's why we left the public response in there, because we felt it was a lag. We took out privately because we know that there was a response privately at some point.
Cool. So I would like to talk on, so why does this exist? Why was this resolution written? I think we all have sat and we've all listened to, at least in our Senate meeting last week, probably more, to a lot of students talking about their experiences at Iowa State. And some of those experiences centered on in residence halls. And as we examined that, members of student government and students felt like there was a sufficient history of events that warranted some sort of additional response, and kind of this compounding of it's time to do better led to the creation of this resolution. I would like to ask our Director of Residency, Pete, if you agree with the assessment that more should have been done in the past, and is the Department of Residency taking large action towards the future? And could this be kind of a proactive, we acknowledge there's a mistake and moving forward positively?
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. As we've reviewed some of the cases, and we've had artifacts that have been provided to us on previous cases, and then also reviewing what took place in Joffrey, we would do it differently in a number of different ways. The minute I received the initial resolution, we started having meetings with folks, soliciting feedback from CAs about what support looks like, meeting with our CA advisory board, meeting with our residence life team, and then what we met with Ian and Elena and Fish and Austin to talk a little bit about what our response will look like, because what we want to show you is an action plan that will kind of describe the changes we're making, because one of the things they said, this is the minimum. I hope that you look to go beyond. And so there's already things we're talking about, the way in which our performance management processes will include in each review, how are you advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion in your role? So for all of our Department of Residence team, that's going to be part of our performance management piece. That had already been in the conversation around things that we need to do better, day in and day out, and you're going to see a lot more examples. And then we'll take each of the clauses and we'll try and respond specifically how we think that might work, and appreciate the example that came from Dr. Ernest about how we responded at one point to a previous case, saying, if you could do that on a routine basis, that would be really helpful. And so that's what we'll do. Collectively we'll come together with some pretty good solutions, and we'll come back to this body, I think before the end of this semester, if not in the beginning of spring semester, with what we're doing. So you'll see the difference.
Okay, and yeah, I just want to state that this, I co-sponsored this. I want to work with Department of Residence. I think we all do, and acknowledging that as you self said, that like, you know, maybe something should have been done a little differently in the past, and if we all can acknowledge that and work together. So I know like the title of the bill seems a bit attacking, but I don't really I hope it's not, and I hope that it's, this is like, you know, we acknowledge that there's a problem and that we're gonna try and work together to solve it. I've been really happy with the members of student government that have sat down and met with yourself and other members of the university towards working about that.
And I'll add that
Yeah.
Senator Zastro and I met with University Council already to talk about what are the guardrails we work under and trying to get that clarified. I mean, there's been a lot of work already, and you'll see it. I mean, we'll be very transparent around our thoughts, and I don't know that we'll spend a lot of time rehashing some of the old things. We'll just say, look, does this look like the kind of response you'd like to see us provide in the future moving forward? So it's hard to read. I'll be honest with you when you say this attacking. I mean, when I read the first one, I got, oh my goodness. So, but it's fair, okay? And so we need to do better.
Thank you. It's a tough situation, and I've been impressed by the other members of student government and the Department of Residence, and let's work together and have this resolution be a productive step towards implementing some of the policies that Department of Residence has talked about and policies that other students around campus have talked about that are proposed in this bill. And I think that this can be a turning point towards a better and more inclusive campus as long as we all decide we're playing for the same team. So with that, I'll yield. On my second speaking privilege, thank you, Vishesh, for letting me use two of them back to back.
Okay, so I yield my first privilege away before saying anything I wanted to. So one of the questions Vice Speaker Schrader mentioned is why this was actually brought up. In the resolution itself, it lists just 4 incidents. There are a number of incidents that were identified. All of that was provided to Pete in that meeting. And what I wanted to specify here, and I feel that I say almost every time we talk about this, is I'm a community advisor. I'm a part of the Department of Residence, and I'm seeing these failures in the department that I work for. So this is not calling any one person out. This is saying we, as an institution, have these systems in place that have failed to support the community. The reason I feel this is important is the Department of Residence is home to, I believe it's around 11,000 students?
10,466.
10,466. That's like almost a third of the student population here at Iowa State. And a lot of the people that I've spoken to about the incidents happening within the Department of Residence don't actually live within the Department of Residence. So if we're limiting the scope to just the people that live within the Department of Residence, we're failing to actually see how big the incidents are and how many people they're impacting. And so I felt that it was important because when this department is home to a third of the student population but impacts probably nearly the entire student population, we can't do the right thing until we acknowledge what's wrong. And so this resolution is doing that. And I think it's very important to do that. To specify why this is important, I want there to be no question about why this was written. There was a large group of people that worked on this because we continued to see these failures on multiple incidents, timelines. I was able to find documents back to my freshman year. I'm now a 5th year. So the pattern exists, and I think part of the failure was viewing every incident as an individual event for years. And when you look at it as an individual event, we're able to look and find blame in one thing and try to fix that one thing without acknowledging the system that created that thing. So this is hopefully changing that system. Some of these pieces are for the university. There's going to be another resolution that comes up later to talk about the university-wide, but I would echo Pete's statement, this is fair. A lot of thought was put into this. I think it's incredibly important. I'm a little biased. But this is to better the department that I've put pretty much my entire college career into. When I think back to college, it's as a CA. 4 years will be as a CA. That's incredibly impactful to me and the tens of thousands of students that come through this department. So, call to question.
There's been a call to question on the bill as a whole, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, I'll prefer to do a roll call vote unless someone wants to appeal to the decision of the chair. Senator Vet.
Yes.
Olligard.
Yes.
Bender. Blair.
Yes.
Khan.
Yes.
Colbison.
Yes.
Dollinger. Fritz.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Hanyoung.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Class.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Lipford. Ludwig.
Yes.
Meredith.
Yes.
Orger.
Yes.
Rice.
Yes.
Rolling.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Cyril.
Yes.
Stanley.
Yes.
Samuel.
Yes.
Zastro.
Yes.
With a vote of 25 to 0 to 1, the Senate resolution passes. There's been a quorum call. Advet.
Here.
Olligard. Bender. Blair.
Here.
Khan. Crab. Colbison. Dollinger. Fritz. Green. Gonzalez. Hanyoung. Heasley. Johnson. Class. Klein. Lifford. Ludwig. Mass. Meredith. Mitchell. Orger. Rice. Rinchi. Rolling. Simanu. Schrader. Searles. Stanley. Samuel. Tonette. Zastro. We do have quorum.
Other Klein.
I call both Kleins.
Here.
It's okay. I counted you as present, so that's okay. Sorry about that. Moving on to 2019-2-46F, funding residency fair with Senator Class.
Did you get the amendments? I propose the amendments suggested in Finance Committee. You didn't get, do you? Give me a minute. It was last week. Did you get them?
We changed the cinnamon rolls to 6 and
Yeah,
16.
we'll just do this the
Double
old-fashioned way.
Friday.
Can I just say, do I have to like make them? I'm just gonna say them, because I move to amend, the quantity for cinnamon rolls to 16 dozen, same cost. And then that total for cinnamon rolls would be, $117.60, times 2. And then the same for the amount requested from StuGov. And then total for both the totals is going to be $395.58. And then that can also be reflected in the enacted clause. So moved.
There's been a motion to move to amend the bill with the proposed amendments by Senator Class, and there's a second. We move into discussion. Senator Class.
Oh, Director of Residency,
Broadnax.
Marty. You want to talk about the event?
Yeah.
Oh,
There-
what?
we're on the
Oh,
amendment.
sorry, call the question.
There's been a call to question on the amendments, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a placard vote. And there's been a call for unanimous consent. Are there any objections in approving the amendments by the way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the amendment stands approved. Senator Class.
You want to talk?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Hello. So this is the second annual residency fair. We're hoping that it's an annual event that really gives students the opportunities to see all of the housing shops that or options they have in Ames, both off campus as well as on campus. This year too, the Campus and Community Commission will be attending, so there will be some education component that we're really excited about. So they students can have more of lease education or like just smart rent tips for renters who often are first-time renters as they come to Ames. A part of that is I'm having a bingo type raffle situation where to enter you have to walk around and you have to go to the campus and community education booth in order to be entered. So we hope that's like a little incentive to get people to go listen to what they have to say, as well as just be informed about renting before you sign that lease. I do want to be transparent. I don't want to, because I know you're all going to attend. They're not rolls, they are pull-aparts. So I just didn't want anyone to be disappointed. But yeah, so if you have any questions.
Questions for our Director of Residency, Rod next. Senator Blair.
You mentioned that there's going to be various rental options. Will there be like groups like the tenant union, groups working to, help people, stuff like that as well?
So like most of the companies are like rental properties plus the commission and DOR. I have not been in contact with the Ames tenant union, but if that's something they're interested in attending, I'd be open.
Okay.
If
But it's
I'll
not just for like landlords. It will be open to like more community groups that might help with these sort of things.
Yeah, I haven't reached out. The only person, since I'm on the campus and community commission, that's kind of the only group we have so far. But I'd be willing to talk if you think they're going to be interested. I'd be open to that because again, we're trying to expand this annual event to get more education components.
Yeah.
So if they're able to provide that, I think that'd be a great addition.
Yeah, I would love to see more community groups because I know there's like homeless type things and all sorts of
Yeah,
housing issues.
Do you?
Yes.
Senator Blair. Senator Dollinger.
Hi, so I was just wondering, did you reach out, like I know I didn't like personally get anything, did you reach out to anyone on UROC for planning this since like this 100% involves our constituency, so?
No, I did not. So I'm fully planning this event by myself and was given not a lot of instruction, so I'm kind of doing it not blindly, but I was not aware of that nor in the planning process. So I have not reached out to UROC yet. I've mostly just been focused on getting properties to confirm attendance as like my priority right now.
Okay, I'll yield for now.
Further questions, motions? There's been a call to question on the bill as a whole, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Senator Advet.
Yes.
Oliver.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Hahn.
Yes.
Fulton.
Yes.
Dollinger.
Yes.
Fritz.
Yes.
Green. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Spatz.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Hine.
Yes.
Lifford.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Mass. Meredith.
Yes.
Orger.
Yes.
Rice.
Yes.
Rowling.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Searles.
Yes.
Stanley. Samuel.
Yes.
Zastro.
Yes.
Anya. Yes. Thank you. Green. With a vote of 23 to 0 to 2, this funding request passes. Moving on to 2019-2-47F, funding winter weather safety bags with Senator Fritz.
Hello. Okay, so this is just one of the at-larges on the Student Initiatives Committee. Her name's Natalie Dirks, had the idea to hand out these winter weather safety bags, which were just include various information and supplies for staying safe in the winter. And so you can see that we removed the chapstick from there, and that is because the Department of Residence is sponsoring that by giving us chapstick. And then, yeah, so that's what I have to say right now. I'm confused. Okay, I yield.
Senator Zastro.
Oh.
There's been a motion to move to approve the amendments proposed by the Finance Committee, and there's been a second. We move into discussion. Senator Zastro. There's been a call to question on the amendment, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a placard vote, and there's been a call for unanimous consent. Are there any objections in approving the amendment by the way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the amendment stands approved. Senator Zastro. Senator Rowling.
Hi, so I just want to give just a little bit more background. First of all, I want to shout out to Natalie. She couldn't be here tonight, but she's done a really fantastic job with this. And to kind of expand a little bit about it, these bags are kind of targeted towards people who typically don't deal with Iowa winters, whether that's international students or people who aren't from like this region of the country, especially with some of the more rigorous winters that we've had in the past. I think it's really awesome that we were able to partner with the DOR to get some of this free chapstick as well. In addition, this comes out to less than $2 a bag, so they've done a really great job of trying to get some necessities that people kind of look over as you go towards the winter weather events. And unless anybody has any further things to say, all right. What you got, Josh?
Senator Rowling, when will the event be held?
So we were working on a specific date. It's going to be within these next 2 weeks. It kind of depends when we can take our wonderful finance director to go and purchase the stuff.
Awesome. I yield.
There's been a quorum call. Advet. It's a quorum call, so president or here would only work. Alucard. Bender. Blair. Khan. Crabb. Colbertson. Dowlinger. Fritz. Green. Gonzalez. Hanyang. Beasley. Johnson. Class. Klein. Klein. Lifford. Ludwig. Mass. Meredith. Mitchell. Origer. Rice. Rinchi. Rolling. Samanu. Schrader. Searles. Stanley. Samuel. Trinette. Zastro. Rice. We have quorum. There's been a call to question on the bill as a whole, and there's been a second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Advet. Yes. Alucard. Yes. Bender. My bad. Blair. Yes. Khan. Yes. Colbertson. Yes. Dowlinger. Fritz. Yes. Green. Yes. Gonzalez. Yes. Hanyang. Yes. Johnson. Yes. Class. Yes. Klein. Yes. Klein. Yes. Lifford. Yes. Ludwig. Yes. Mass. Yes. Meredith. Yes. Origer. Yes. Rice. Yes. Rinchi. Rolling. Yes. Samanu. Schrader. Yes. Searles. Yes. Stanley. Yes. Samuel. Yes. Zastro. Yes. With a vote of 26-0, this funding request passes. Moving on to new business. Within new business, we have 2019-2-48 SR addressing student demands of action to prevent the spread of racism and anti-Semitism on campus. And Senator Hanya.
Title. I'm okay with not objecting to this because it's very similar in the whereas clauses to the bill that we saw earlier, the resolution that we saw earlier. This time, when you look over it, you'll see in the resolve clauses that there are very many demands in there that are from the, if you read the student demands letter from last week, a lot of those are from the ACT section of that. And then also there is a portion there that addresses chalking and posters on campus, which I would like everybody to read over pretty thoroughly because that's a huge change. And when we talk about students, you know, sometimes seeing student government just issuing things and saying we should do these third things, this is something I'd like a lot of debate over. So I will be in office hours tomorrow around 1:30 until 3, or whenever people would like to, discuss about that. So please reach out to me. I'll also be available over the weekend, and I'd love to talk more about this.
Questions of intent? Seeing none, we'll see this one next week. Moving on to 2019-2-49E, approving the 2020 Election Commission with Speaker Culbertson. Election Commission timeline.
Titled. Okay, yeah, despite what the agenda says, this is actually for the election timeline. Make sure you look over it for next week.
Questions of intent? Seeing none, we'll see this one next week. Moving on to 2019-2-50SZ, Court Reform Constitutional Amendment with Madam Speaker.
Title. So this is the official bill for the court reform constitutional amendments. Like I said, make sure you read it over. It's 5 pages long. This is one of those bills where if you come and having not read it, we will have a very long discussion. But if you talk to us about it in the office before then, it'll be great. So.
Questions of intent? Senator Ludwig. Seeing none, we'll see this one next week. Moving on to 2019-2-48F, funding Senate office paint with Senator Lifford.
Title.
Vote to consider as read.
Funding some office paint.
Questions of intent? Seeing none, we'll see this one. Senator Zastro. Any further questions of intent? Seeing none, we'll see this one next week. Moving on to 2019-2-49F, funding special Ops Club. I don't know how to say that, but Senator Lifford.
Special Operations Prep Club. So title.
Vote to consider as read.
Questions of intent? Seeing none, we'll see this one next week. Closing announcements. Senator Rowling.
All right, so just a couple notes. First, SI will be seeing the resolution that just came up for first read, so 2019-2-48SR. I will let you know where the room will be. We're working on the MU right now to reserve a larger room since SI can no longer fit itself in the West Sauce. Also, I am still looking for help on the Women in STEM initiative. Please let me know if you have anybody who is interested in that. We're getting banner costs. Those are coming around right now, and I'm waiting for an email back, as well as we are still looking into that speaker that I mentioned previous weeks. In addition, fun announcement. So some of you knew that we were working on some solar panel tables. Well, we're going to be seeing a bill pretty soon, as we've been working with FP&M to get some solar panel lighting across campus. So if any of you are interested to kind of hear more about that before we bring the bill forward, please speak to me or anybody working on the project. So special shout out to Senator Ludwig, Senator Tonette, and Senator Green for helping on that. So y'all rock. It's been a really cool process. So please come talk to me about it afterwards. All right, I yield.
Senator Searles.
Two things. Thanks to everyone that worked on the resolution tonight, that was voted on tonight. I think that taking a stand publicly is incredibly important for us, and I hope that this is only a small, tiny small first step in the right direction that we can all keep working towards. Working for equality in a safe environment is never not going to go away. Never going to go away. Double negatives there, fun. And join the Campus Safety Walk, please, because we need people. Thank you, I yield.
Senator Hanyan.
Hey, y'all. On this Saturday at 3 p.m., Thomas Women's Choir is doing a concert in Martha Owens High Recital Hall, which is a music hall. So it's really fun. They are actually one of the most kick-butt groups I've ever seen perform here. And if you are in favor of hearing women on campus just sing and you cry and stuff sometimes, go to it. It's really fun. Also, like Senator Searles mentioned, just thank you for supporting the censuring bill. It's obviously very hard. I appreciate it. He left already, but Director of Residency Anglin obviously seems very receptive to what we talked about, and I really hope that moving forward with what we've done, what we're going to be talking about next week, that we'll also have some good debate on that. Yeah, that's about it.
Senator Zastro.
Howdy, y'all. About a month ago, talked with y'all about the Open and Affordable Education Week that we're going to be having in the spring, and I asked for any ideas. That meeting is, Jesus, probably check my calendar. I think it's next Wednesday. It is. Yep. So that's before the Senate meeting, so this is the last time I'm going to be able to ask y'all. If you have any ideas for Open and Affordable Education Week, let me know. If there are any speakers or if you would be interested in speakers or some session talking about OERs or stuff like that, hit me up. Y'all know me. Thanks for considering these bills in front of us really well. We have 2 bills next week that I hope we have a lot of good discussion on, being the climate bill and the judiciary bill and probably other bills too. So yeah, have a good night. I yield.
Senator Meredith.
So something PR committee is doing is we are going to take small videos at the end of each Senate meeting and just have one of the senators do a quick recap of the topics that we went over or talked about at the meeting to post on the Instagram, just so people can get a quick highlight of the important things that went on. So if anyone would be willing to do it tonight, let me know and I will come record you. Otherwise, I'm going to pick one of you and you're going to have to do it. Okay, thank you. I yield.
Senator Ludwig.
All right, I'm going to make this quick so that we can maybe get out of here before 10 p.m. But it's your weekly lectures update, guys. Everyone get excited. There's 2 lectures between now and the next Senate meeting. This Friday, November 8th at 4 p.m. In 117 McKay Hall Auditorium, we have Serve the World with Hyper Innovation with Steve Johannes. And then next Tuesday, November 12th at 7 p.m. in the Sunroom, there's Forbes Ronald Lecture in Environmental Conservation with Margaret Palmer. There's more information on the lecture's website. They're both really fantastic topics. I recommend that you all go. Again, we're all paying for it. So, yeah, I yield. Thank you.
Senator Stanley.
Hello, everyone. First, I would like to congratulate Senator Rowling on besting me in Robert's Rules at the SI meeting. She corrected me on a mistake I made. So I must formally recognize her. I'll do my best. On a more serious note, the engineering senators and I have formulated a plan of action to help address some of the campus climate issues that we have been seeing in recent weeks. Our plan was more or less tailored for the College of Engineering, but I'm sure that we can generalize it, so to speak, if any of you would like to explore using it. Senator Searles proposed it to his department to great effect, I hear. So if any of you are interested in hearing about it, I can send you our description and our thoughts on the matter. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Senator Gonzalez.
So I forgot to mention this earlier, but just a quick plug. This week is First Gen Week, so just give a little love to your constituents or, people that are, first generation, because we love them. All right, have a good night.
All right, seeing none, I just had a couple of announcements. First of all, shout out to our beautiful Senate clerk. I can't imagine typing all of that last meeting. It was definitely a lot to type, and as the email said, it was about, 13,000 words? So I'm glad we had the conversation, and I appreciate him being here, so I want to snapshot that. Second of all, this Monday I sit on an orientation committee. So basically the new student programs would be meeting with other Office of Admissions as well, and they'll be planning on the next 2 years of orientation because they plan just so early for everything. So if y'all have any suggestions for how they should change their orientations in the way they do stuff in orientations, please reach out to me. The meeting's on Monday, so I would love to hear any comments or any tips that y'all have for orientations in specific. And secondly, I also serve on the Micromobility Committee with the City of Ames. So what that committee is, basically, it's Ames PD and a couple of members from the City of Ames, and I'm the only student representative on that committee. And this Micromobility Committee would be the one that would be making, that would be suggesting the council so the Ames City Council to move in what direction. So I would love to hear your opinions on scooters because that's the main conversation. Last meeting we saw notes from a company called Bird. They're trying to come to Ames, and there was a lot more conversation about infrastructure, investment, and in terms of pilot projects, safety, liability of students, as well as how it's going to get implemented or where it's going to get implemented. So I would love to hear your comments on that. Just send me an email, stop me after the meeting. I would love to chat with you on that as well. Vice Speaker Schrader.
Yeah, so for please do a mentor-mentee meeting in the month of November. That'll probably be the last one of the year since December we only have 1 week and then it's dead week in finals. So actually maybe we'll move it so by the time dead week starts, do another mentor-mentee meeting. And that's the requirement. So that's over a month. So hopefully we have enough time there to get that in. The goal of the program is to have returning senators foster the personal development of new senators, and whether that be in student government or outside student government, we want to invest in people. If you're wondering, yes, the constitutional amendment was 200 lines on purpose. It was 197, and I added stuff to those 200. I would like to thank President Graver for being unable to attend the Athletics Advisory Council and letting me go instead today. It was a fun time. I just want to say that I got a free shirt, I got a free poster, I got some stickers. It was a fun time. We did not get a backpack. It was a shame. But I would say that that council meets once a semester for student concerns or feedback for athletics. And Athletic Director Pollard just reconfirmed that with the entertainment district that they're trying to propose in between Hilton and Jack Trice, that no university money or student money will be going towards that project, and that we will essentially be getting it for free from a student perspective. That will be either donors or private developers trying to make money off the property. And the commuter lot will be the first thing fixed, so students aren't going to be in a limbo in that direction. So I think the overall tone of it was Athletic Director Jamie Pollard does a very good job of ensuring that input is gathered all around. And that project will probably redefine campus experience and life in Ames, like what we have to do in Ames, as the people in Iowa City like to yell at us about that we have nothing to do here. And this is a huge project that students are getting for free. I don't think I can ask questions during closing announcements, but yeah.
There are several senators who apparently don't have mentors.
That's news to me. Which ones?
I found one.
Travis. You got an email about it.
Do you have a mentor?
Yeah, it's Noah, but he's not here.
Okay, so is it just you then?
Okay, this month. We'll go for it. I'll check if I sent that email. Otherwise, I apologize. All right.
Madam Speaker.
Okay, I don't have a lot of StuGov stuff, but I have like an important sustainability update, which is why I'm wearing my live green shirt. But anyhow, so I recently found out, like just today, that so the power plant obviously is working to be more sustainable, so they switched from coal to gas. But long chemical story short, basically, that created a different kind of acid when they were burning the plastics in the plant. So it's actually putting holes in the boilers. So they're having to do like a lot of repairs. So actually the power plant is temporarily not burning trash right now, so it is going to landfill now. So just like a quick reminder to watch your waste, at least through like December if you're gonna make a goal of it, because that's when hopefully it'll be back up and running. So yeah, go Cyclones. Move to adjourn.